Chapter 821. Did something happen to Sister Rosa? Wang Xing didn't care about anything else and asked hurriedly, "Where is she?" "In the backyard." Mayor hurriedly brought Wang Sheng over to have a look. Wang Sheng turned around and instructed the guards who had followed him all the way back to find Steward Wang to make arrangements for them to rest. Then he turned to old Taoist Ling Su and said, "Old Taoist, let's go and have a look together." Old Taoist Ling Su certainly didn't mind. He didn't stand on ceremony and walked away. Only then did Mei see Taoist Ling Su. She hurriedly apologized and bowed. Old Taoist waved his hand and joked with a smile, "You only have your lover in your eyes. You don't have an old Taoist like me." His words made Mayor extremely shy. While everyone was talking, they didn't stop and quickly rushed to the backyard. Sister Rosa was placed in Wang Sheng's original bedroom. When she entered, Mayor stole a glance at Wang Sheng, as if she wanted to confirm his expression. Seeing that Wang Sheng wasn't unhappy at all, she was relieved. Generally, big shots would hate others staying in their bedroom. Mayor arranged for Sister Rosa to lie there on her own. She was a little nervous, afraid that Wang Sheng would blame her for this. Wang Sheng didn't respond, but it also showed that he didn't care. Seeing Wang Sheng come in, the woman sitting by the bed stood up. Wang Sheng didn't even need to come in to know that it was Tantai Yao, Sister Rosa's master. "How's Sister Rosa?" Wang Sheng came in and strode straight to the bed. He didn't care about the etiquette between men and women. Sister Rosa's health was more important. Sister Rosa was lying on the bed with a red face. She wasn't unconscious, but her expression was very painful. Wang Sheng frowned and turned to ask, "How did it become like this?" As he said that, Wang Sheng reached out to touch Sister Rosa's forehead without hesitation. Sister Rosa's forehead was boiling. When Wang Sheng's hand touched it, there was even a great force that repelled Wang Sheng's hand. Spiritual energy attack? Wang Sheng immediately noticed the spiritual energy attack on Sister Rosa's forehead. He became even more confused. Why is this happening? Cultivation is out of control. Before Tantai Yao could say anything, Taoist Ling Su, who followed behind, had already revealed Sister Rosa's current situation. The spirit energy is completely out of control. Hearing Taoist Ling Su's words, Tantai Yao could not help but nod her head. She had indeed lost control of her spiritual energy during the cultivation process. Wang Sheng changed his hand and grabbed Rosa's small hand. As expected, the situation was exactly the same. Once he touched it, he felt the spiritual energy bouncing out. Needless to say, the other parts of her body should be the same. Sister Rosa could no longer control the spiritual energy in her body. Wang Sheng took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. Then he asked Tantai Yao, "What cultivation technique did you cultivate?" "Yongchun cultivation technique." Tantai Yao looked at Sister Rosa, who seemed to be in pain, and sighed. "The modified Yongchun cultivation technique. The modified Yongchun cultivation technique is so dangerous." Wang Sheng was shocked and asked hurriedly, "The other's cultivation is different from Rosa's." Tantai Yao shook her head and replied, "The other's cultivation is normal. Only Rosa's is different." "Why?" Wang Sheng was even more dissatisfied. Why did he let Sister Rosa cultivate a different cultivation technique alone? Tantai Yao did not say anything this time. Instead, she looked at Wang Sheng with hidden bitterness. Not only Tantai Yao, but even Mayor had the same expression as if it was Wang Sheng's fault. It's not just the spiritual energy that's out of control. Old Taoist Ling Su had been staring at Sister Rosa's condition. At that moment, he suddenly spoke again. "The yin energy in her body is too strong. It's so strong that it's ridiculous. If this goes on, she'll be in danger. Is there a way?" Wang Sheng asked hurriedly. Old Taoist Ling Su could tell that there might be a way. "Let me think first." Old Taoist Ling Su could not give a direct solution. He frowned and pondered. After a while, he continued to ask, "What exactly caused this?" "It's all his fault." Mayor spoke first this time and complained to Wang Sheng with dissatisfaction. Wang Sheng was confused. What does this have to do with me? How can I let Sister Rosa have too much yin energy? But immediately, Wang Sheng thought of a possibility. No way. Mayer seemed to be embarrassed to say it out. Tantai Yao was responsible for explaining. With Tantai Yao's explanation, everyone understood what was going on with Sister Rosa. The root cause was still Wang Sheng. More than 600 beauties wanted to cultivate the improved Yongchun cultivation technique. They were willing to use the heaven and earth reversal method to have sex with Wang Sheng, but they were rejected by Wang Sheng. The girls had no choice but to find other ways. Even if Tantai Yao was successful in cultivation, she could only find another way. Half a year ago, Mayer had booked all the brothels in the capital city and invited a few maids from the palace to give her sexual advice. This was related to this. Since she couldn't abolish the cultivation of the women through sexual intercourse, Tantai Yao wondered if she could do it through sexual intercourse between women. After all, she was confident that the heaven and earth reversal method could control the degree of abolishment. She could not control the degree of abolishment in another way. In the end, everyone decided that the girls would have sex with Sister Rosa. Sister Rosa would play the role of a man to bear the effect of the girls' heaven and earth reversal. If Wang Sheng had nodded at that time, it would not have been so troublesome. Wang Sheng could lie in the land of warmth and tenderness. He could also get a lot of benefit from the heaven and earth reversal. His cultivation could also improve quickly. Unfortunately, Wang Sheng did not agree, so they could only sacrifice Sister Rosa. One of the important reasons for choosing Sister Rosa was that Sister Rosa was still a virgin while the other girls were not. After Wang Sheng left, Tantai Yao deduced and analyzed for a few months and finally decided to let everyone start cultivating. It was normal at first. Relying on this method, the girls who originally cultivated the Yongchun mental technique had successfully reached the level of Tantai Yao back then. It was considered to have passed the most troublesome stage. As long as they continued to cultivate step by step, coupled with the nourishment of a large number of good herbs, they could easily recover their original cultivation and improve even more. Seeing that the method was effective, the girls were overjoyed and began to cultivate one by one. However, it was hard on Sister Rosa. She had to take turns to satisfy the needs of more than 600 beauties. She only persisted for less than 30 sisters. Suddenly, the spirit chi in Sister Rosa's body went out of control and became like this. Tantai Yao's analysis was also because the yin chi was too strong. After all, dozens of sisters' yin chi were injected into Sister Rosa's body through the heaven and earth reversal. Sister Rosa was alone and not a man. She could not withstand such a degree of arousal and lost control of her spirit chi. This was also the reason why Mayer felt that everything was Wang Sheng's fault. After listening to Tantai Yao's explanation, Wang Sheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. Mayer, whose side are you on? Are you expecting me to accept hundreds of beauties? Chapter 822. Sister Rosa's current situation was very troublesome. Losing control of her spiritual energy was very painful, but it was not fatal. This situation had been going on for 3 to 4 days, and Tantai Yao was also at her wit's end. Hearing that Wang Sheng was on the way, Mayer and Tantai Yao were waiting for Wang Sheng's return. Old Taoist, your cultivation is high. Can you suppress the spiritual energy that is out of control? Wang Sheng looked at Sister Rosa's painful face and felt distressed. If it weren't for him, Sister Rosa might not have to suffer like this. In any case, Wang Sheng had to find a way to cure her. I can try. With old Taoist Ling Su's cultivation, Sister Rosa's realm was not a problem for him. Not to mention suppressing the time-space spiritual energy, it was not difficult to completely dissolve it. With that, old Taoist Ling Su walked forward and ordered Tantai Yao, help her up. I'll help her. Tantai Yao was about to agree, but Sister Rosa, who was lying on the bed, struggled and shook her head. At this moment, she couldn't even speak, but she still tried hard to express her wishes. Why? Wang Sheng looked at Sister Rosa's painful expression and couldn't help but ask. Old Taoist cultivation is high. He can help you suppress the spiritual energy that is out of control so that you won't be in so much pain. Sister Rosa couldn't speak, but she still shook her head. This movement made Sister Rosa even more painful. Wang Sheng looked sad and couldn't help but grab her hand. He didn't let go even if he was shocked by the spiritual energy. This seemed to be useful. The painful expression on Sister Rosa's face eased a little. Old Taoist Ling Su looked at this scene and didn't say anything. He just shrugged his shoulders and turned to leave. "Come and find me when you think about it." Mayor hurriedly went out to help greet him. This was the most senior elder of the Laojun Temple, Wang Sheng's senior brother, so she couldn't neglect him. "Lass, what do you think?" Old Taoist Ling Su waited until he and Mayer had returned to the front hall and sat down to drink tea before he asked, "You're pushing him into another woman's arms by doing this. Don't tell me you don't know." "I know," Mayer replied very seriously to old Taoist Ling Su. "But this is the only way to make those female experts only loyal to the High Duke. Hundreds of beauties. Aren't you afraid that you won't have a place for yourself in the future?" Old Taoist Ling Su admired Mayer's consideration for Wang Sheng, but he didn't forget to remind her of the consequences of doing so. If the High Duke would ignore me because of this, then he wouldn't have rejected those women's initial request. Mayer suddenly became extremely confident and smiled charmingly. "The High Duke isn't that kind of person." Old Taoist Ling Su shook his head. Confidence was a good thing, but she was actually so magnanimous in this kind of matter. Old Taoist Ling Su was a bit confused. Was Mayer a woman? Why didn't you ask the old Taoist for help? Wang Sheng turned to Tantai Yao and questioned her sternly. "Because Rosa doesn't want other men to touch her body." Tantai Yao seemed to already know the reason. She sat next to him and said calmly, "Only you can touch her body." Futile. Wang Sheng didn't know what to say. At this time, there was still such a so-called persistence. It was simply unreasonable. Turning his head and seeing that Sister Rosa's expression seemed to be better, Wang Sheng turned and asked, "Why is she feeling better now?" "Because the High Duke's body is full of yang qi," Tantai Yao said calmly. "The yin qi in Rosa's body is too strong. She needs yang qi to neutralize it. You hold her hand and neutralize some yang qi. It will make her feel better." Hearing Tantai Yao's words, Wang Sheng immediately pulled Sister Rosa up and held her in his arms without hesitation. His chest was close to Sister Rosa's body. He hugged her tightly and felt the hot temperature of her body. Wang Sheng knew that Sister Rosa could feel it, so he put his mouth close to Sister Rosa's ear and whispered, "Sister Rosa, do you feel better like this?" Sister Rosa let out a sound of ecstasy. Wang Sheng could clearly hear the joy and happiness contained in it. Sister Rosa's body was soft as if she had no bones. Every part of her body was emitting waves of spirit qi, which made Wang Sheng feel limp and numb. Is there any way to make Rosa better? Wang Sheng couldn't care about anything else at this moment. He asked Tantai Yao anxiously. "Actually, there's the simplest way." Tantai Yao wasn't anxious at this time. She said slowly, "I just don't know if Marquis is willing or not." "Say it." Wang Sheng immediately urged Tantai Yao to say it quickly. "I've already hinted so clearly." "Marquis, can't you think of it?" Tantai Yao suddenly smiled coquettishly. She didn't seem to be worried about Sister Rosa's body at all. In fact, Wang Sheng was already mentally prepared. The overabundance of yin qi would cause the spirit qi to lose control. It could be resolved as long as the yin-yang harmonized. Tantai Yao had asked Wang Sheng to pamper them many times in the past, but Wang Sheng had never agreed. But now that Sister Rosa was in such a situation, Wang Sheng didn't seem to have any other feasible way. Is that all? Wang Sheng couldn't be bothered to reprimand Tantai Yao's scheming thoughts. He asked calmly, "Of course not." Tantai Yao shook her head directly. "Rosa has endured the infusion of heaven and earth reversal from more than 20 sisters. The yin qi is too abundant, and her body can't take it anymore. Unless what?" Wang Sheng asked impatiently. "Unless Marquis also uses the heaven and earth reversal method to transfer most of your cultivation to Rosa's body." Tantai Yao looked at Wang Sheng and said seriously, "The consequence is that your cultivation will be greatly reduced. It will take a long time to make up for it." Before Wang Sheng could say anything, Sister Rosa, who was in his arms, was already struggling and whimpering. Wang Sheng understood that Sister Rosa wasn't willing. She didn't want Wang Sheng to lose his cultivation for her. It was already like this, but she was still thinking for Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng gently patted Sister Rosa's back and hugged her tighter. Then he asked Tantai Yao, "How do I use the heaven and earth reversal method?" Marquis is cultivating the Tao sex cultivation method. It's better to consult the Tao sex patriarch. Tantai Yao didn't tell Wang Sheng immediately this time. Instead, she suggested that Wang Sheng consult the old Taoist Ling Su. The cultivation methods of each sect are different. Although the heaven and earth reversal method is similar, there are always some differences. It's better to ask. And Wang Sheng picked up Sister Rosa and planned to go out to find Patriarch Ling Su. But looking at the situation, it seemed a little inappropriate. He could only instruct Tantai Yao to invite the old Taoist Ling Su over to consult on the spot. Chapter 823. Haven't you seen all the techniques in the Taoist temple? Old Taoist Ling Su looked at Wang Sheng holding Sister Rosa. He knew Wang Sheng's decision, even if he was a fool. He turned a glance at Mei Er and sighed. What else is there to ask? What do I need to pay attention to? Wang Sheng asked old Taoist Ling Su. He also looked at Mei Er apologetically. Mei Er clearly saw the apologetic look in Wang Sheng's eyes. Suddenly, she realized that Wang Sheng still cared about her feelings. The joy in her heart was suddenly indescribable. Ecstasy filled her chest. But when she saw Sister Rosa in Wang Sheng's arms, she felt sour for no reason. She didn't know whether she should be happy or jealous. The heaven and earth reversal will be used normally. Old Taoist Ling Su looked at this scene and shook his head. He said slowly, "But this girl's yin qi is too strong. You may be exhausted. May girl, prepare some warm and nourishing pills and give them to this brat to nourish him later." Mayer was still in a complicated mood, but when she heard that Wang Sheng would be exhausted, she immediately became nervous. She hurried out to order the preparation of pills. With the Duke's mansion's current power and financial resources, not to mention some nourishing elixirs, they could even buy good fortune pills without hesitation. It's impossible to harmonize yin and yang in one go. Her yin qi is too strong and somewhat impure. I'm afraid you'll have to do it a few more times. Old Taoist Ling Su carefully looked at Sister Rosa in Wang Sheng's arms. He reminded Wang Sheng again, "You'll be very tired after this. It's normal. You'll be fine after some rest." Tired? Wang Sheng remembered that when Song Yin performed the heaven and earth reversal on him last time, she didn't seem that tired. Men and women are different. Looking at Wang Sheng's expression, old Taoist Ling Su knew what Wang Sheng was thinking. He explained with a bitter smile, "This girl's spiritual qi is out of control, and you still have to suppress it. However, after all the yin and yang have been harmonized, you will suffer a great loss. You must be mentally prepared." "How much damage can there be?" Wang Sheng asked. "Her cultivation was originally higher than yours. If you forcefully reverse the heaven and earth, I'm afraid that after the yin and yang balance is completed, your cultivation will probably drop to the first stage, or even lower." With old Taoist Ling Su's cultivation, foresight, and knowledge, everyone believed in old Taoist Ling Su's judgment. Woo 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 woo. Although Sister Rose could not speak, she could clearly hear old Taoist Ling Su's words. After hearing this, she struggled even more. She was not willing to let Wang Sheng pay such a price to save her. If it was lower than the first stage, it would be useless. Tantai Yao had never thought that saving Rosa would require such a price. If she had known this earlier, she would not have schemed to send Rosa to Wang Sheng's bed. She wanted to find a powerful and capable Wang Sheng who could shoulder the storm for them, not a Wang Sheng who had lost his cultivation. Although Wang Sheng's loss could be recovered in a few months with Wang Sheng's financial resources, this was only the result of Rosa having sex with more than 20 sisters. There were also more than 600 sisters. However, things had already come to this. No matter how much Tantai Yao regretted it, she could only save Rosa first. The sisters at the back could think of other ways and get through this hurdle first. In addition, your strength is too great. If she loses control of her spiritual energy, she will not be able to control the recoil. If you don't want to crush her to death in the middle. Old Taoist Ling Su sighed. You'd better find some help. With that, old Taoist clasped his hand behind his back and walked out slowly. Sigh. What a sin. Tantai Yao was stunned. Then she was delighted. She immediately said to everyone, Wait, I'll arrange it. I'll be back soon. Mayor looked at Wang Sheng for a while and then looked at Sister Rosa in Wang Sheng's arms. Her face was full of worry. She did not expect Wang Sheng to pay such a huge price. Although his life was not in danger, his cultivation was almost crippled. If outsiders knew that Wang Sheng's cultivation would be crippled, how would they deal with it? Wang Sheng used a little force and resolved Sister Rosa's struggle. Thinking about it, old Taoist's words made sense. With his strength, if he lost control accidentally, he would probably crush Sister Rosa easily. However, could he find help for such a thing? It was not that Wang Sheng wanted to sacrifice himself for others on a whim, but Wang Sheng felt that he was part of the reason why Sister Rosa became like this. In fact, Sister Rosa became like this because of him. If he did not care, how could Wang Sheng live in the future? Sister Rosa did not want other men to touch her. Wang Sheng was a fool to know Sister Rosa's thoughts. However, Wang Sheng always had the shadow of the girl in his dream in his heart. Even Mei did not give him a definite promise, let alone other women. But now that things had come to this point, Wang Sheng would not explain anything. Wang Sheng would bear the responsibility and would not shirk it. Tantai Yao moved very quickly. In less than half an hour, she rushed over with more than 20 beauties. They all had sex with Rosa. Tantai Yao said in front of Wang Sheng and the girls, Marquis, you are affectionate and righteous. You do not want to look down on us. We are very grateful. They have already treated Rosa as you, so you don't have to have any psychological burden. When Tantai Yao said this, more than 20 beauties nodded in unison. Among them, there were a few who Wang Sheng had warmed the bed when he slept in the Wang residence. They were not strangers. They had already slept in a bed close to each other. Who else could he not let go? After saying this, Tantai Yao got up and pulled Mei, who was still worried, out of the bedroom. Mei left with Tantai Yao reluctantly. Just as the two figures left the bedroom door behind them closed gently. Marquis, hold Sister Rosa well. We will help Marquis take off his clothes and take a bath. Although Wang Sheng had made a decision, he did not know what to do in this situation. The girl next to him had already thought of everything and reminded Wang Sheng softly. At this point, Wang Sheng decided to just let it go. If his hesitation harmed Sister Rosa, Wang Sheng would probably feel uneasy. In the bedroom, a few beauties had already prepared warm water. The other beauties had already begun to undress Wang Sheng and Sister Rosa. In the process of undressing, Wang Sheng did not let go of Sister Rosa. Even when undressing, Wang Sheng's hand was still holding on to Sister Rosa's hand. When Sister Rosa's soft and smooth skin was naked on Wang Sheng's chest, Wang Sheng's heart was also stirred. Enduring the numbness from the spiritual energy shock, Wang Sheng carried the naked Sister Rosa into the bathtub. When the dust from a journey was washed away, even Wang Sheng could not help but let out a comfortable moan. Chapter 824. Sister Rosa was lying flat on the big bed in the bedroom. A few women who had sex with her helped to hold her hands, feet, head, and torso, because Tantai Yao said that once Wang Sheng injected Yang Qi, she would move uncontrollably. It was a critical moment and couldn't be interrupted. She could only ask for help from outsiders. Wang Sheng's strength was too great. Anyone who had contact with Wang Sheng knew this, especially in this special situation. Even if Wang Sheng was an immortal, he couldn't control his strength perfectly. But if Wang Sheng lost control of his strength, even if it was just a little bit, it would be a disaster for Sister Rosa in this situation. It was absolutely a disaster when a powerful strength that could easily crush steel like mud was pinched on a delicate body. No one wanted to see such a situation, so it was necessary and extremely necessary for someone to help. The problem was that at the critical moment of the reversal of heaven and earth, Wang Sheng himself was actually as fragile as Sister Rosa. A casual blow could kill Wang Sheng. In this situation, even if someone wanted to help, they must choose those who could make people feel completely at ease. Mei would never have any other thoughts for Wang Sheng. But the problem was, to let Mei watch Wang Sheng sleep with another woman in front of Mei, and Mei still had to help by the side. It was fine to think about this kind of thing. If he really dared to do this, even if Mei didn't care, with the Emperor and Empress strength to protect Mei, they definitely wouldn't let Wang Sheng go easily. Those female guards in the mansion, the Emperor sent a bunch of them over. With the Emperor's current behavior of worrying about Wang Sheng's ability to enter and exit the array as if it was nothing, would Wang Sheng dare to use them? Even if he didn't consider the Emperor's perspective, would Wang Sheng dare to let a group of female experts with quite a personality watch him in Sister Rosa's bedroom? Therefore, the only people he could trust were the women in the mansion. As for the women who had slept with Sister Rosa, they were grateful to Wang Sheng for taking them in and to Rosa for helping them with their cultivation. It was the most suitable choice. The atmosphere in the room was very charming, but none of the people involved were in a charming mood. After all, this was a rescue mission. A single mistake could result in death or even serious injury. Who would have a mood to lament about this? There's no need to be nervous, Duke. From the bottom of our hearts, we already consider ourselves to be Duke's people. You could just treat us as maids warming your bed, or even as objects. This was the first time that Wang Sheng was in such a situation. He could not let go of himself. The woman beside him felt Wang Sheng's body stiffen. She purposely reminded Wang Sheng in a low voice, "This is to save someone." "Duke, you must not fail at the last step." Wang Sheng also understood this. He activated the Buddhist incantation of 9 words and calmed himself down, throwing the embarrassment to the back of his mind. Then, under the guidance of the woman beside him, he gently kissed Sister Rosa's red lips. The heaven and earth reversal process was very smooth with the help of the women. When the last moment arrived, Wang Sheng only felt that all the spirit qi in his body left his body with that last moment of joy and rushed into Sister Rosa's body. It was not easy for him to cultivate the scripture of Tao scripture of calmness for such a long time, and only then did the acupuncture points that he had modified show signs of being half full. When all the spirit qi was released, Wang Sheng only felt a wave of exhaustion that he had never felt before. It made Wang Sheng almost unable to hold on and fall asleep. Fortunately, Wang Sheng's strong willpower kept him awake because he still wanted to know the results. "How is Sister Rosa?" Wang Sheng asked with difficulty. "It's very effective. The fever has already subsided." The woman beside him helped Wang Sheng wipe the sweat on his head. Then, she fed a pill to Wang Sheng and replied, "After resting for a night, Sister Rosa should be able to control the spirit qi on her own tomorrow and can move." "That's good." Hearing that Sister Rosa's condition had improved significantly, Wang Sheng's heart was finally relieved. As soon as he relaxed, tiredness swept over him like a tide. Even the nourishment of the pill was of no help. Within a few breaths, Wang Sheng fell into a deep sleep. Wang Sheng fell asleep because he was too tired, but the women did not dare to rest easily. After carefully cleaning the sleeping Wang Sheng and Sister Rose, who had also experienced so many days of pain, they were finally slightly relieved. Then, they cleaned the sleeping Wang Sheng and Sister Rose, who had fallen into a deep sleep, and placed the 2 of them under a blanket. Then, they quietly separated a few people to stay behind and serve them. The others also hurriedly took the time to rest, because old Taoist Ling Su said that Sister Rosa's problem could not be solved in 1 or 2 times, and it would take many such experiences. They had also used the heaven and earth reversal technique not long ago, and their cultivation had dropped greatly. In order to be able to persist in the future, they must have enough rest time. Mei and Tantai Yao had already received the news when Wang Sheng had just fallen asleep, but they only came to visit at this time. Looking at Wang Sheng's pale face that could not be concealed under the candlelight, Mei felt like a knife was being twisted in her heart. However, when Mei saw the women who were left behind in the sleeping quarters, protecting Wang Sheng as if he was their emperor, she finally calmed down a little. The Duke's cultivation is not enough, so you can't have me immediately. Mei repeated this sentence in her heart, and her heart calmed down again. After instructing the women to guard Wang Sheng and Sister Rosa, Mei and Tantai Yao left again. Mei went straight to old Taoist Ling Su and told him about the current situation and asked more about the possible consequences that Wang Sheng might have to face. As for the guards of the Laojun Temple had already surrounded the sleeping chamber of the Duke's mansion in 3 layers. Several old Taoist priests of the Qing generation had not left since the last time they came. In addition, there was also old Taoist Ling Su. At this time, even if Uncle Li personally came to the door, there would probably be only one result. Wang Sheng slept for a full 16 hours before he woke up from that deep sleep. As soon as he opened his eyes, Wang Sheng felt a wave of fatigue that he had never felt before. His body was so soft that it seemed to be worse than when he first came to this world. This feeling seemed to be only felt when he had just entered the military camp on Earth. Old Taoist Ling Su really did not lie. It was really a huge consumption. Before Wang Sheng had time to check the results of his cultivation, his body was hugged by a soft and delicate body. "Duke, why were you so silly? You did this for me. It's not worth it." Sister Rosa's voice sounded in Wang Sheng's ears. There seemed to be a hint of crying, but there was more hidden joy and self-blame in her words. It seems that the method really worked. A smile bloomed on Wang Sheng's face. "It's good that you're fine. As for cultivation, you can always cultivate it back." Chapter 825. Sister Rosa was lying beside Wang Sheng in the same bed. Although she could already control her spiritual energy and no longer suffered from the excessive yin energy, she had only just recovered and was still very weak. Hearing that Wang Sheng didn't care about his body or his cultivation and only cared about whether she would recover or not, Sister Rosa was willing to die for Wang Sheng. Unfortunately, she couldn't do much else. She could only stick her body, which was as sweet and delicious as a ripe peach, tightly against Wang Sheng to let him know her feelings. Wang Sheng stretched out his hand and embraced Sister Rosa's elastic body. He gave her a reassuring smile. "Rest more. I'll take a look at my current situation." Sister Rosa then realized that Wang Sheng hadn't checked the situation in her body. She called out in a low voice, and 2 maids immediately appeared at the head of the bed and helped Wang Sheng up. Closing his eyes, Wang Sheng began to check the situation in his body. He had definitely lost a lot of spiritual energy, but he didn't know how much it had been consumed. Right now, the acupuncture points were almost empty, and only traces of spiritual energy were still flowing spontaneously in the acupuncture points. Wang Sheng understood that this was because he didn't actively cultivate. His body was only absorbing spiritual energy from the outside world instinctively. But because he cultivated the scripture of Tao Scripture's mind guarding calmness, it had already become a conditioned reflex. Even if Wang Sheng didn't actively cultivate, his body would automatically absorb spiritual energy from the outside world. It was just that the efficiency was very low. What surprised Wang Sheng was that none of his acupuncture points had decreased. There were still 128 of them. In other words, the so-called decrease in cultivation was simply the exhaustion of the spiritual energy stored in the acupuncture points. In the soul space, the venomous python soul didn't change much. The places that should be colorful were still colorful, and the places that should be transparent were still transparent. The only thing that had changed was the mist in the pool. Originally, the pool was already filled with a black, viscous fog. Now, however, Wang Sheng noticed that the color of the fog had clearly lightened significantly. For Wang Sheng, this was a kind of cultivation regression. The good news was that it didn't seem like his cultivation had fallen too badly. The bad news was that this was only the first time. There would be many more in the future, and Wang Sheng's cultivation would continue to fall. Sister Rosa had already been helped up by a few beauties and was struggling to cultivate. Wang Sheng didn't care that he was naked. He half lay on the bed and closed his eyes to cultivate. There was indeed a change in the absorption of spiritual energy. To put in quantitative terms, when Wang Sheng was cultivating in the Duke's mansion, the speed at which he absorbed spiritual energy was equivalent to a waist-thick tube. Now, however, it was only as thick as a thigh. The speed at which he was absorbing spiritual energy had dropped to a quarter of his original speed, and it was still a quarter of the speed at which he was absorbing spiritual energy in the Duke's mansion. This was probably the price he had to pay. However, Wang Sheng didn't feel that it wasn't worth it. He had saved Sister Rosa's life and allowed this girl, who had taken care of him since he entered the worry-free city, to continue living happily. Wang Sheng was very satisfied. Also, don't think that a decrease in cultivation was a disaster. For Wang Sheng, this wasn't a disaster, but another kind of training for himself. Wang Sheng clearly remembered what the wedding gown divine technique was. He also knew what the people in this world who changed their source souls were planning to do. He also knew what would happen if someone like Song Yin performed the heaven and earth reversal technique and started cultivating again. Everyone who cultivated for the first time would have no experience, so it was inevitable that all kinds of problems would arise. The process of cultivation was actually the process of solving all kinds of complicated problems. However, cultivating for the second time after one's cultivation had been destroyed was completely different. No one would make the same mistake, just like how no one would fall in the same place in the same river. Cultivating again would perfectly avoid all the mistakes that others had made in the past. It was the perfect interpretation of true cultivation. After cultivating in this way, the cultivation would still be at the 7th degree realm, but the cultivator who cultivated again would be at least 50% stronger than the other 7th degree realm experts of the same level. In addition, recovery was recovery, and it would also be beneficial to future cultivation. The simplest reason was that the foundation would be much more stable. Even if there were huge risks in future cultivation, they would be able to face it calmly. The only problem was that cultivating again would require time. In Song Yan's condition, she would need more than half a year to recover, and that was under the condition that the Song clan had a large amount of tonics to nourish her. In addition, Song Yin had a life rejuvenation pill, which was why she only needed half a year to recover. Although Song Yin had done a lot for Wang Sheng, both her and Wang Sheng's cultivations were relatively low at that time, so the time needed to cultivate again would not be very long. But might not be the case for Wang Sheng now. Wang Sheng would not be lacking in elixirs, and his cultivation conditions would definitely be good, but the problem was that Wang Sheng's cultivation would probably be reduced by a lot. Wang Sheng did not doubt old Taoist Ling Su's judgment. If he said that it might be reduced to the unrated realm, then Wang Sheng believed that it would definitely be reduced to the unrated realm. Even if Wang Sheng could still maintain his original cultivation speed, it would still take a few years to cultivate to his current level. What was worse was that Wang Sheng had suddenly lost his cultivation, which would probably cause a series of problems. There would be a huge gap in the development of the core area of the grounds of Thousand Despair. Of course, the big families might be happy to see such a situation, allowing them to calmly cultivate experts in their own camps. But no matter what, the time when Wang Sheng wanted to meet the girl of his dreams would definitely be delayed again. The speed at which he absorbed spiritual energy had slowed down by 4 times, but Wang Sheng realized that it was not without its benefits. At the very least, the speed at which he accumulated spiritual energy had increased by a lot. In the past, after 9 weeks and day of cultivation, the amount of spiritual energy left in his acupuncture points was less than 10%. But now, after 1 round of cultivation, the amount of spiritual energy left in his acupuncture points was at least twice as much as before. Old Taoist Ling Su also came over personally. After carefully examining Wang Sheng's condition, he nodded repeatedly and said, "It's better than I thought. You might not fall to the unrated realm." Similarly, old Taoist Ling Su also used his spiritual energy to examine Sister Rosa's condition and nodded as well. "Girl, cultivate well. Once you get through this, you'll gain something out of a misfortune, and your future will be limitless." The benefits brought to Sister Rosa by more than 20 beautiful women were simply enviable. However, whether it was in Sister Rosa's or Mei Er's hearts, They would rather Sister Rosa not have these benefits than let Wang Sheng be hurt. Chapter 826. When it was just the two of them, Wang Sheng asked old Taoist Ling Su, "Old Taoist, what happens to the acupuncture points when one's cultivation is crippled?" Of course, the number of acupuncture points will be reduced to the same level of cultivation. Old Taoist Ling Su answered without hesitation. "What about the origin soul?" Wang Sheng asked immediately. "The change to the origin soul may be more painful." Old Taoist Ling Su sighed. "The origin soul will not suddenly return to its original state of low level, but it will slowly return to its original state over a period of time. This process may be very painful for you. After all, the origin soul space is related to your consciousness. You've experienced it? How do you know so much about it?" Wang Sheng was very curious and could not help but ask old Taoist Ling Su. "I've experienced it once, and it dropped by a large level." Old Taoist Ling Su nodded naturally. "It's cultivation, after all. You have to experience more situations that others have not experienced in order to be better than others, don't you think? Is that why you don't object to me doing this?" Wang Sheng laughed. He and old Taoist Ling Su talked about almost everything. Even when talking about such things, they did not have to worry about anything. "Of course, it won't be bad for you." Old Taoist Ling Su nodded again. "I don't know why you cultivated in the past, but I just felt that your foundation was not solid enough, and your cultivation of spiritual energy was actually very poor. Not to mention the unstable state of cultivation that you obtained through crooked means. It will be a huge hidden danger in the future. If you can take this opportunity to build a solid foundation again, it will also be a good thing for you." Old Taoist's words made sense. Wang Sheng was also aware of his own problems. Previously, when his origin soul leveled up, it was all kinds of delicious food, calligraphy, or music. There was never a time when he absorbed spiritual energy properly and leveled up naturally. This also led to Wang Sheng's spiritual energy cultivation before the 7th stage could be said to be in the lower middle. Although it was related to the small number of acupuncture points Wang Sheng had, it was ultimately due to the lack of foundation. This was an unchangeable fact. Old Taoist Ling Su could see Wang Sheng's shortcomings, so he did not stop Wang Sheng from saving Sister Rosa this time for Wang Sheng's sake. To Old Taoist, Wang Sheng's delay for a few years was nothing. It was absolutely worth it for a few years in exchange for 100 years in the future. Old Taoist, don't you hate extravagant people like me the most? Wang Sheng knew that Old Taoist was doing it for his own good. He felt warm in his heart, but he could not help but be curious. "You know that by doing this, I will gain the loyalty of a large group of beautiful women, and my life will be more extravagant in the future. How can you still endure it? You used to be unhappy with the Grand Abbey Dean and the others, and you directly left the Abbey. Do you still remember the first time we met?" Old Taoist laughed, as if recalling the scene in the small mountain village outside the capital. "Of course," Wang Sheng replied quickly. "At that time, you told old Lu's little disciple that I was an otherworldly expert. Later, you said that you were a layman who liked good land and beautiful wives." Old Taoist Ling Su smiled and repeated Wang Sheng's words at that time. "From then on, I knew that you were not a cultivator. Then why did you still want to be friends with me?" Wang Sheng asked, a little puzzled. "I'm making friends, not looking for a fellow cultivator." Old Taoist Ling Su's words made Wang Sheng speechless. "Then why did you bring me into Taoism and accept me as a disciple on behalf of your master? Aren't you afraid that I'll lead these young people astray?" Wang Sheng asked with widened eyes. "That's why I only accepted you as a layman disciple on behalf of my master. I didn't let you enter Taoism, and you don't even have a Taoist name," Old Taoist Ling Su said disdainfully. "Only you are to my liking. You're better than those people. Look at my current situation. What realm have I dropped to?" Wang Sheng was speechless. He changed the topic and asked again, wanted to confirm if his changes were correct. "You should still be in this realm." Old Taoist Ling Su's eyes were sharp. He saw through Wang Sheng's cultivation at a glance. "You'll have to do it many more times. Your realm will gradually drop, but it's a good thing. Haven't you seen all the techniques of the Laojun Taoist sect? Take advantage of this opportunity to cultivate from the most basic Taoism techniques. Cultivate all the way up again. I guarantee that you won't have to worry about having a weak foundation in the future. Wang Xing nodded and remembered old Taoist Ling Su's words in his heart. He was indeed planning to use this opportunity to cultivate again. After a whole day, Wang Xing cultivated 4 times. Only then did he recover the spirit qi in his acupuncture points to its current limit. Then, he helped Sister Rosa with her treatment once again. Sister Rosa could barely control her spirit qi now. She didn't let it run amok, and she could also move on her own. Therefore, Wang Xing didn't let the beauties help him with the treatment this time. It was just the two of them cooperating. It had to be said that as a disciple of Triumph Palace's Hidden Hall and the personal disciple of Triumph Palace's Hidden Hall master, Sister Rosa was definitely very good at serving people. She didn't have a chance before. Now that she was facing Wang Xing, who was willing to sacrifice his own cultivation to save her, and was also the man she had already decided to be with for the rest of her life, Sister Rosa could be said to be doing everything she could to please Wang Xing. It was the best age for a woman to be glowing with radiance. Under her deliberate flattery, Wang Xing felt as comfortable as if he had gone to heaven. Compared to the first time, it could be said to be like heaven and earth. It was only at this moment that Wang Xing could be considered to have truly eaten the juicy, ripe fruit of Sister Rosa. Every single one of his taste buds were jumping with joy, enjoying the most mellow taste. He was still tired, but Wang Xing still endured it and asked Sister Rosa. After knowing that she was feeling better again, Wang Xing then went back to sleep. It was like this for the next few days. Nourishment, cultivation, rest, and after recuperating, he helped Sister Rosa with her treatment. After a few days, Sister Rosa felt more than half better. Old Taoist Ling Su would carefully check on Wang Xing every time after the treatment. Wang Xing's cultivation dropped with each treatment. After the 3rd treatment, it had already dropped to the bottom line of the 7th stage. According to old Taoist Ling Su's deduction, after the next treatment, Wang Xing would drop to the 6th stage. After he made love with Sister Rosa again, he performed the heaven and earth reversal again and fell into a deep sleep. After waking up, Wang Xing subconsciously checked on the condition of his body. He wanted to see the changes in his acupuncture points and soul after his cultivation dropped. However, when Wang Xing's consciousness was immersed in the soul space, he couldn't help but be stunned. In the soul space, other than the smoke in the pool turning white, there was no other change. Old Taoist also said that it would take a period of time for the soul to drop, but Wang Xing didn't feel any pain. What made Wang Xing even more surprised was that the number of Wang Xing's acupuncture points was still at 128. It didn't decrease at all. What situation was this? Chapter 827. Sister Rosa's condition was obviously improving, and his cultivation was getting smoother and smoother. Other than the occasional disturbance of yin qi, everything seemed normal. Wang Xing's condition was very worrying. At the very least, a few of the Qin cohort, old Taoist Ling Su, and Tantai Yao could easily see that Wang Xing's cultivation was declining. The only thing that could be rejoiced was that only his cultivation was declining, and there were no major problems with his body. The nourishing pills Mei Er bought for him at a high price, and he took them every day, also made Wang Xing not look so weak. Stage 6, right? Old Taoist Ling Su would always check on Wang Xing's body after Wang Xing woke up. After checking again, he sighed and asked, "Do you regret it? You've already reached this stage. Even if you have a headache, just bear with it." "I don't regret it." Wang Xing shook his head, suddenly not knowing how to explain his current condition to old Taoist Ling Su. Not a single one of the 128 acupoints was missing. Wang Xing did not feel any of the headache that Taoist Ling Su had mentioned due to the drop in his origin spirit. Other than the white mist that was churning in his origin spirit space, everything else was exactly the same as when Wang Xing had exited the core of the ground of 1,000 extremes. But old Taoist Ling Su could clearly see that Wang Xing had dropped to stage 6. With the old Taoist's eyesight and experience, there was no way he could be wrong. Even Wang Sheng himself could feel that the total amount of spiritual qi was getting lesser and lesser when he cultivated. It should be a drop in level. But there were no changes in his acupuncture points and spirit. What was going on? Could it be that his body was special? Impossible. Although Wang Sheng's origin soul did not seem like a normal origin soul, it should not have been able to escape the influence of the heaven and earth reversal mental cultivation technique. In that case, the only thing that could explain all of this was what Wang Sheng cultivated. The scripture of the way of maintaining tranquility was miraculous. Wang Sheng also felt that his brain power seemed to be expanding. But it was not miraculous enough to resist the degradation of his soul essence and aperture acupoints. After much thought, Wang Sheng could only think of the 9 secret words incantation. Wang Sheng was unable to find out which word of the 9 secret words were. The most likely ones were the swordsman formula and the forwarding formula. One was to restore the body, while the other was to control the spiritual energy. However, Wang Sheng had a feeling that it wasn't that simple. When he started cultivating, Wang Sheng finally discovered the difference. Even though the acupoints were still there, the amount of spiritual energy each acupoint could hold had shrunk. It felt like he had indeed returned to the state before the Qianyu transformation. That was more like it. The reduction in the total amount of spiritual energy meant that his cultivation level had dropped. As long as the number of acupoints was not reduced, and as long as his soul essence was not degraded, it seemed that if Wang Sheng wanted to recover, he only needed to expand the acupoints again. It was much simpler than having to worry about the upgrade of his soul essence. Wang Sheng didn't tell the old Taoist Ling Su too much about the secret within his body. He kept his secret and continued to cultivate, nourish, and help Sister Rosa remove the worry of yin energy. After such close contact with Sister Rosa, Wang Sheng gradually understood Sister Rosa's character. It wasn't just Sister Rosa. Even the disciples from the Triumph Palace's hidden hall had similar characteristics to Sister Rosa. This was also discovered by Wang Sheng. It was completely different from a strong woman like Song Yan. If Song Yan encountered such a thing, she would probably resist even more fiercely. Wang Sheng even suspected that if he had fallen from the sky when he first came to this world and not landed next to Song Yan, but somewhere else, Song Yan might have been destroyed indiscriminately. Meyer was also different. Although Meyer had a soft temperament, she had, after all, been in charge of Baoqing Yutang for many years. Knowing that she was in a critical situation, she decisively cut her losses and immediately made a decision to side with Wang Sheng, decisively leaving Baoqing Yutang. Sister Rosa and the others were different. Perhaps they had been taught to be obedient since they were young. Apart from the promise that they would be given the opportunity to make their own choices, everything else they had learned was to attract and please men. Sister Rosa had been training in Carefree City for so many years and was finally a little better. As for the other sisters, they were simply extremely soft and resigned to adversity. Only the female experts were a little better, but they were still the type to endure silently. This kind of temperament cultivated from a young age caused Sister Rosa to be almost completely obedient to Wang Sheng. She directly regarded Wang Sheng as her master. In the past, she was also very respectful to Wang Sheng, but it was a kind of gratitude and gratitude. Now, however, she completely regarded herself as Wang Sheng's subordinate. This kind of change was extremely obvious. Sister Rosa, there's no need for you to be like this. Humans weren't plants or trees. How could they be emotionless? After so many days, Wang Sheng had also somewhat gotten used to hugging Sister Rosa to sleep. Before the next treatment session, Wang Sheng still opened his heart to Sister Rosa. I can't give you any promises. In fact, I won't be any better than Victorious Return and the others. This mistress accepts. Sister Rosa had been in Carefree City for so many years. What kind of people had she not seen? In order to escape to Carefree City, she had seen many people abandon their wives and children. Wang Sheng was the only one who didn't harm the people around him. Not only did he not harm them, but he also did his best to help the people around him. If not for this, how could she have thought of seeking protection from Wang Sheng after Victoria's Return Palace was destroyed? After saying this, Sister Rosa took the initiative to hug Wang Sheng's neck, tightly pressing herself against Wang Sheng's body. Her face was filled with happiness. Wang Sheng sighed in his heart. While cursing himself for being immoral, he turned over and pressed Sister Rosa under his body, continuing with another round of treatment. This time, Wang Sheng finally noticed something different from the previous few times. During the treatment process, a cool aura, which carried a trace of coolness, flowed into Wang Sheng's body when all the spiritual energy in Wang Sheng's body surged out and entered Sister Rosa's body. The cool aura was very weak, but wherever it passed, it made Wang Sheng feel exceptionally comfortable. In the past, every time the heaven and earth reversal happened, Wang Sheng would be so exhausted that he didn't even want to say a word before falling into a deep sleep. This time, however, Wang Sheng was much more energetic. He could even maintain this state and cultivate the scripture of the Taoist canon of tranquility before falling asleep again. After waking up, Wang Sheng checked his body and found that it was in a good condition. The total amount of spiritual energy in his acupoints had further decreased. However, there seemed to be a trace of slightly cold spiritual energy in each acupoint. When he saw old Taoist Ling Su again, Wang Sheng told him about this peculiar cold aura and asked him what was going on. "All right, I finally heard some good news." Old Taoist Ling Su listened carefully to Wang Sheng's description and asked him how he felt. Finally, a smile appeared on his face. Yin and Yang are in harmony. A part of the excess yin qi in her body has entered your body. When the balance is completely balanced, you will be able to cultivate with yin and yang, achieving twice the results with half the effort. Chapter 828. Wang Sheng also felt that it was a good thing. At least he no longer felt tired after releasing all of his spiritual energy, which was obviously beneficial to him. Sister Rosa's feelings and Tantai Yao's diagnosis showed that Sister Rosa was recovering very well, even better than the previous few times. With old Taoist Ling Su's judgment, Wang Sheng knew that Wang Sheng had neutralized the yin qi previously, but the yin qi had been channeled into Wang Sheng's body. Moreover, it was probably the purest yin qi, so the effect was naturally better than a simple neutralization. When he started cultivating again, Wang Sheng felt it more and more clearly. The total amount of spiritual energy had obviously decreased, but the speed of the Tai Chi yin-yang cyclone in his acupuncture points had sped up due to the addition of a trace of yin qi. Even the absorption of spiritual energy had sped up. After Wang Sheng returned, the Duke's mansion had closed its doors and refused to see any guests. The only time he had seen outsiders was when Wang Sheng met the group of great masters in the guest hall. The great masters had come to tell Wang Sheng that the royal theater had been completed and that Master Yu's band had been trained well enough to perform. It had taken less than 8 months to build a complete royal theater, which had been arranged inside and out. It was indeed not easy. Although it was called the Royal Theater, it was up to Wang Sheng to decide when the first performance would be held. On this point, not to mention the people in the capital, even the emperor had no objections. "Then let's pick a good day and start the performance." Wang Sheng looked at the excited great masters. He knew that they were also looking forward to Wang Sheng's approval and the recognition of the future audience. He did not reject them and let Master Yu and the others discuss a date for the performance. As long as they informed Wang Sheng in advance, Wang Sheng could still stagger the date and go to the royal theater to support them. The few great grandmasters had noticed Wang Sheng's cultivation condition, but they did not think too much about it. They only thought that it was a side effect of Wang Sheng entering and exiting the core area of the land of 1,000 extremities. This was no longer secret. Almost everyone who went in and out would experience a period of weakness that was neither long nor short. He didn't ask much and only told Wang Sheng to rest well. This was the only group of guests. All the other guests were turned away. Even when Steward Zhou came to visit, he didn't get to see Wang Sheng. He was directly sent away by Mei Er. On the other hand, Wang Sheng had gone to the prince's mansion once. Originally, Wang Sheng went over because Master Yu and the others had set the time for the performance. So Wang Sheng went over to inform the girls that they would be the first audience for the first performance of the Royal Grand Theater in this world. Wang Sheng had promised this before, so Wang Sheng fulfilled his promise this time. However, when he arrived at the prince's mansion, Wang Sheng was once again received by the girls with a grand reception and kowtowed to him with completely different thoughts. Just like the change in Sister Rose's feelings for him, they were still loyal, but the meaning of loyalty was completely different. The most special thing was that those girls who had already had sex with Sister Rosa and performed the heaven and earth reversal seemed to have established some mysterious connection with Wang Sheng through Sister Rosa. Each of them behaved like Wang Sheng's concubines. That kind of intimate and unguarded attitude made Wang Sheng speechless. The others seemed to have a different degree, but they all had a tendency to move in this direction. When Wang Sheng told everyone about his intention to invite them to the first concert of the Royal Grand Theater, all the girls cheered happily. The prince's mansion instantly became a sea of joy. Before they set off, most of the modern clothes that Wang Sheng had designed for the girls had already been made in the past few months. Every beauty was wearing a completely different and beautiful dress, which made Wang Sheng feel like he had returned to Earth. Remember to wear a dress when you go. Wang Sheng had designed a dress before. After reminding the girls, Wang Sheng returned to the Duke's mansion again. Currently, the girls' combat power was not high enough, and the Duke's mansion had old Taoist Ling Su, so it was the safest place. Even if Wang Sheng wanted to stay in the prince's mansion, the girls would not agree. The first concert would be held in a month. During the period of waiting for the concert to be held, Wang Sheng's life was still as regular as before, healing, nourishing, resting, and cultivating. Sister Rose's body was getting better and better, and she was slowly gaining full control of her spiritual energy. Her cultivation speed was also getting faster and faster. The effect of more than 20 women's heaven and earth reversal had already manifested. The speed at which they absorbed spiritual energy was even beyond everyone's expectations, leading to the danger of losing control in another direction. Fortunately, every time she made love with Wang Sheng, the excess yin energy in Sister Rose's body would be transferred into Wang Sheng's body. Moreover, as Sister Rose's condition improved, the amount of yin energy that was transferred into Wang Sheng's body increased, and the coolness in Wang Sheng's acupuncture points accumulated more and more. Wang Sheng's cultivation continued to decline, at least in the eyes of others. After half a month, in the eyes of old Taoist Ling Su, Wang Sheng's cultivation had already reached the early stage of the third stage. A few more times, and he would probably fall to the first stage. If Sister Rosa had not fully recovered by then, Wang Sheng might really fall back to the unrated realm. No one knew that the number of acupuncture points in Wang Sheng's body was still 120 and had not decreased at all. His original soul was still in the same state as when he returned to the capital. There was no further improvement. Only the tail and hind legs had color, and the other parts were transparent. The only change was the white mist in the pool, which had become very thin. The acupuncture points were still shrinking. If each acupuncture point was the size of a basketball when he first returned to the capital, then it was at most the size of a ping-pong ball now. Under Wang Sheng's conscious control, the yin energy in the acupuncture points and the normally absorbed spiritual energy slowly formed the shape of a Tai Chi yin-yang fish. However, the yin energy was slightly insufficient, and it could not form a complete pattern. During the continuous treatment, Wang Sheng seemed to have vaguely grasped the reason why the number of his acupuncture points did not decrease, and the original soul did not decline. However, the answers seemed to be in front of him and within reach, but it was always a little bit away. It was not able to unveil the veil, which made Wang Sheng very distressed. Wang Sheng believed that if he could solve this problem, the current drop in spiritual energy cultivation would not be a problem at all. It could be easily solved. Unfortunately, the inspiration was still a little bit away. It was just a little bit away, and he could not enter the door. For the next 10 days, Wang Sheng and Sister Rosa would treat each other every other day. On the 13th day, a strong yin energy rushed back into Wang Sheng's body. At this point, all the excess energy that affected the balance in Sister Rosa's body no longer existed in Sister Rosa's body. After the double diagnosis by old Taoist Ling Su and Tantai Yao, everyone received a happy news. Sister Rosa had finally recovered. Old Taoist Ling Su's judgment was like a divine prophecy. After this last treatment, Wang Sheng's cultivation fell to the unrated realm. There were still 3 days before the premiere of the Royal Theatre. Chapter 829. Before Wang Sheng returned to the capital, the Royal Theatre had already been renovated. The only thing left was to clean up the surrounding environment and build the surrounding roads and parking lots. Don't look down on this world. It also needed a parking lot, a place to take care of the animals, and a place for the driver to rest. The people who would come later would either be officials or people of high status. They couldn't fall behind in this aspect. The people in the capital began to discuss after the exterior of the theater was built. They knew it was the Royal Theater, but they didn't know what it looked like inside. They also didn't know what this theater was used for. Later on, there was news from the emperor's side. After the Royal Grand Theater was built, it would invite artists from all over the world to perform here from time to time. The emperor would also occasionally come to watch, and the royal family would be a long-term distinguished customer. The Royal Grand Theater. Whoever could perform here would definitely be of a high class. Once the news was released, many people felt like they were struck by lightning. If it wasn't because no one knew when the theater would be built and what the standards of the artists were, there would probably be countless people rushing to the capital to call themselves artists. This time, there was finally a definite news. The Royal Theater would have its first unofficial preview in 3 days to test the overall facilities of the theater. The reason why he announced this to the public was because Wang Sheng was giving the emperor some face. After all, he was the main sponsor. No matter what, he should let the emperor participate for the first time. However, if he added the title of an unofficial preview, then it would be much easier. First, check whether the facilities of the theater met the requirements. Once it met the requirements, the emperor and the empress would be invited for the first time. This reason was too strong. Even the officials from the Ministry of Rites couldn't find an excuse to refute. Who dared to let the emperor attend when the facilities of the theater were still uncertain? If there was a mistake, who would take the responsibility? Who dared to take the responsibility? Who could take the responsibility? Therefore, Wang Sheng's request for an unofficial preview before inviting the emperor to attend was unanimously agreed by the officials from the Ministry of Rites and the 3 consecrators responsible for the emperor's safety. In order to cooperate with the preview, one of the 3 consecrators, old eunuch Shun, personally went out and brought a group of royal guards to personally check every corner of the Royal Theater. Even during the performance period and 2 hours before and after, the royal guards had to seal off the theater area. The curious Beijing citizens had no choice but to accept this helpless news. Although they really wanted to see how grand the rehearsal would be, as ordinary people, they didn't even have the right to approach this area. The first rehearsal was in the evening. Master Yu and the others had already arrived at the Grand Theater in the morning to familiarize themselves with the venue and set up the instruments, striving to achieve the best performance. Of course, it must have gone through a lot of checks. The various formations in the theater needed to be controlled by people, especially the soundproofing inside and outside the theater, as well as the amplification of the sound inside the theater. In addition, there was also the lighting, the background, and so on. Although these had been tested many times before, they were all done in the absence of people. This time, Wang Sheng had invited more than 600 beauties. In addition to some distinguished guests from the residence, the total number of people reached 1,000, which was just enough to fill the seats. After an early dinner, the Duke's mansion arranged a car to take all the invited guests to the Royal Theater. The distinguished guests from the Duke's mansion who had the surname Qing, the disciples of the Laojun Temple who could be ranked, the shopkeepers like Qian Xingyuan and Uncle Lu, the shopkeepers of the moisturizing workshop, and even a dozen servants who had been rewarded for their outstanding performance. All wore brand new clothes from head to toe as they rode on carriages to the Grand Theater. These new clothes were all custom-made by the Duke's mansion and had already been arranged half a month ago. Wang Sheng had already told all the participants to be very formal and serious. On this point, everyone did well. Even the usually sloppy old Taoist Ling, Su had changed into a brand new Taoist robe. He had asked the maidservants of the Duke's mansion to tie up his hair into a beautiful Taoist bun. As for the ladies in the Duke's mansion, Wang Sheng had already asked them to prepare their dresses. The women's dresses competed with each other in beauty. Some were designed by Wang Sheng. Some were designed by a few female gurus and great grandmasters based on the styles provided by Wang Sheng, and some were modified by the ladies who liked them. In any case, every beauty was wearing a different dress. Even Wang Sheng was dazzled by the sight, unable to take it all in. The reason why he had the ladies wear these solemn but slightly revealing dresses was that Wang Sheng wanted to use this rehearsal opportunity to convey some information to some people outside. He wanted to let the ladies know about the new industry that they were about to launch. Even Wang Sheng was surprised to see so many well-dressed and radiant, beautiful women at once. One could imagine how crazy the royal guards who were in charge of guarding would be if they were lucky enough to catch a glimpse of them when they got on and off the carriages. As a modern man, Wang Sheng did not mind this degree of openness. When the royal guards spread the news and everyone began to be curious, Sister Rose's industry could be launched naturally. Although it was a business for women, what better advertisement could there be than the word of mouth spread by lecherous men but never had a chance to take a second look? When the news spread, those women who wanted to attract the attention or favor their men would definitely break the threshold of Sister Rose's gym and all kinds of fashionable women's clothing. Sure enough, although the carriages were closed and driven, there was still a short distance of less than 10 meters when they got off the carriages and entered the theater. Groups of enchanting beauties alighted from the horse carriages and walked confidently and elegantly. When they entered the theater in the most ladylike postures, the soldiers of the royal army who were in charge of guarding the area were all dumbfounded on the spot. It was as if they had been bewitched and could no longer move their eyes away. If someone launched a sudden attack at this time, the royal guards would definitely not have time to react. Their gazes, hearts, and even their spirits were occupied by the sudden appearance of a group of seemingly rebellious yet proud, confident, and completely unembarrassed beauties. They were already very attractive beauties. Coupled with the makeup of Runzi Workshop, the fashion design of Wang Sheng, the supermodel body training taught by Wang Sheng, and the palace etiquette education in this world, any one of these beauties was at the level of being able to turn the world upside down. Until the last beauty leisurely walked into the theater for a long time. Even when the last one, Wang Sheng, Old Taoist Ling Su, and Mei arrived in the carriage together, the three of them got off the carriage and walked in. No one could react. There is only one thought in the minds of all the royal guards in this area. Who are those beauties? Chapter 830. No one cared about the thoughts of those soldiers. After entering the Grand Theater, everyone, including Wang Sheng, was amazed. Master Lu and others really brought out their highest standards, not only in terms of craftsmanship, but also in terms of materials and luxury decoration. They spared no effort. Anyway, it was the royal family who paid for it. Mei didn't save money for the emperor at all. She simply gave whatever she wanted, however much she wanted. It was every architect's luck to meet such a generous investor. In order to be able to build the most perfect building in their mind, they would definitely spend every copper coin given by the investor. As soon as everyone entered the door, the decoration in the hall made people's eyes light up. It wasn't the kind of magnificent luxury, but there was a kind of low-key introverted. The use of all kinds of rare wood made the hall have a faint wood fragrance, which made people feel very comfortable. If it was someone from a small place, they wouldn't be able to see what was so amazing about these things. But this time, who were the guests invited by Wang Sheng? The experts of Laojun Temple had good eyesight. Even if they didn't recognize all of them, they could recognize a few of them, especially the huge pillars. Needless to say, the beauties had enjoyed a few years in the palace of Victorious Return and the homes of important ministers. They had seen a lot of really good things. Even among the servants that Wang Sheng had invited, even the weakest of them had served in the residences of important officials in the capital for many years. Their judgment had long been honed. Just this huge hall alone, not counting the ubiquitous arrays, the materials were already of the highest quality and noble. When they entered the theater and sat down according to the instructions of some of the staff members of the previous theater, when their butts touched the seats, they could feel the softness that was different from the hard chairs they usually sat on. This kind of centralized dislocation and neatly arranged seats made everyone curious except for Wang Sheng. Fortunately, everyone maintained a good demeanor and didn't exclaim loudly here. They just communicated with the people around them in a low voice and talked about all the different things they saw. In particular, the staff pointed out the location of the restroom before the opening and briefly explained the rules of listening to the concert, such as keeping quiet, applauding at the right time, and so on. Everyone was more and more looking forward to the upcoming concert. As the lights in the auditorium dimmed, the lights on the stage began to illuminate. Master Yu and his band lined up and walked onto the stage with their own instruments. Then, they sat down in their respective seats. The audience was a high-quality audience. Among them, other than the Taoists of Laojun Temple, the rest, even the servants, had heard the original musicians and zither players from their respective mansions. Even the high Taoists of the Laojun Temple had never heard musicians perform, but they had been to the Dao sect's Dao venue. The atmosphere was not worse than a concert. However, the audience was very curious. In front of each musician was a shelf with a large book placed diagonally. They did not know what it was. Those who knew would know that it was a music stand, but those who didn't would think that it was some new musical instrument. As Master Yu led the musicians to bow to the audience, thunderous applause came from the audience. Wang Sheng, old Taoist Ling Su, and Mayer were sitting in a private room on the second floor facing the stage. This was the seat for the most distinguished guests. Basically, the second floor was filled with private rooms, which were prepared for those with distinguished identities. Looking down from the top, the first thing Wang Sheng saw was the beautiful women sitting neatly and competing with each other for beauty. It was simply the most beautiful scenery. Master Yu held the baton with his back facing the audience. He began to gently knock on the music stand. The musicians also began to prepare for the performance. As Master Yu's arm gently waved down, the crisp sound of the piano accompanied by the beautiful tune of Butterfly Liang was clearly transmitted into the ears of all the audience. The audiovisual formation was done very well, and the adjustments were also very good. Even the farthest and most remote seats could hear the sound, as if it was being played in front of them. Butterfly Liang, people language, ambush from 10 sides, heart-cleansing incantation, love of the butterfly, horse racing, general's order, spring river flower, moonlit night, which were all familiar songs on earth, finally officially sounded in this world and reached the ears of the 1,000 audience members. The Taoists were not very appreciative of some lingering music, and a dozen servants might not be able to fully appreciate these tunes. However, all the beauties in the Prince Yu's mansion were music lovers. As soon as the music started, they were completely immersed in these beautiful tunes and could no longer extricate themselves. Needless to say, Mayer, even if she did not understand music at all, as long as she knew that most of the tunes and instruments used were composed by Wang Sheng, she would definitely appreciate it. Even if these musicians were so bad that they could only make the sound of sawing wood, Mayer still felt that it must be the most beautiful sound in the world. Moreover, this was an orchestra personally directed by Master Yu. Very good. To everyone's surprise, old Taoist Ling Su shook his head as he listened, as if he was listening to heavenly music, which was very different from the other Taoists. As he listened, he praised in a low voice. Of course, this praise was only heard by Wang Sheng. During a break when the orchestra was changing instruments, old Taoist Ling Su suddenly interrupted and asked, "If you have this ability, why didn't you think of composing a song for Taoism from Laojun Temple?" A song for Taoism? Wang Sheng's heart skipped a beat. He turned to look at old Taoist Ling Su and suddenly smiled. "I do have a song, but it's only suitable for you, old Taoist. Do you want to compose it and give it a try? I just don't know if you dare to do it." Sure. What kind of person was old Taoist Ling Su? He dared to drink wine and eat meat in Lao Jun Temple's depository of scriptures. Why would he be afraid of this? He agreed at once. Then he began to listen to the next piece of music. During a break, old Taoist Ling soon nodded again. Not bad, not bad. The new instruments you designed and made are really good. They can cooperate well with the whole orchestra, and it's natural. I reckon that after this period, you'll have another title of Great Guru. Cooperate well, and it's natural. Wang Xing didn't care about the title of Great Guru, but when he suddenly heard these two words, his heart skipped a beat, and he thought of something. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became, and the more he pondered, the brighter his eyes became. The inspiration that had previously blocked Wang Sheng's eyes, and Wang Sheng couldn't find a way to enter, suddenly appeared in front of Wang Sheng. If this was really the case, as long as he could understand it, the power of the 9 secret words incantation could be improved again, and he would no longer have to worry about the reduction of his cultivation, the number of acupuncture points, and the degradation of his original spirit. Chapter 831. As an orchestra, there was a conductor and various musicians who worked together to perform a complete piece of music. The sound of each instrument was an essential organic part of it. Without each instrument, there might be some shortcomings. The Buddhist incantation of 9 words should be the same. In the past, when Wang Sheng, old Taoist Ling Su, and others used the Buddhist incantation of 9 words, they always used a single word. Each word had its own function and effect. When encountering something, they would use the corresponding word formula. If they needed to calm their mind, they would use the Lin formula. If they needed to strengthen their body, they would use the Bing formula. If they needed to have an indomitable fighting spirit, they would use the fighting formula. If they needed to recover from physical injuries, they would use the swordsman formula. If they needed to control the ability to tame beasts or hypnotize the enemy, they would use the all formula. If they needed to drive away insects and summon them to increase their intimacy with them, they would use the formation formula. If they needed to cure people and expel their inner demons, they would use the lie formula. If they needed to enhance their control of spiritual qi, they would use the forwarding formula. If they needed to deal with formations, they would use the attainment formula. It was like a single instrument that could play a complete piece of music, but it was not as beautiful and harmonious as an ensemble. The timbre was not complete and rich enough. Relatively speaking, it was not perfect enough. Even the piano, which was the king of musical instruments, sometimes needed some supporting ensemble when it was playing solo. What would happen if the ensemble of musical instruments was used in the Buddhist incantation of 9 words? Every time the Buddhist incantation of 9 words used all 9 words, there was only one main function, and the others were auxiliary. If they were used in this way, wouldn't it be more harmonious, more mellow, and more powerful? As soon as this idea came to mind, Wang Sheng almost couldn't sit still. Fortunately, he knew that he was at a concert. If something really happened to him, it would affect everyone's mood, so he forced himself to sit where he was. However, although he didn't move his body, the little person with the fighting consciousness in the soul space had already divided 9 parts to deduce the full use of the Buddhist incantation of 9 words. With inspiration, Wang Sheng removed the veil that covered his inspiration. He was in a good mood, and he became more and more excited when he enjoyed the music. Wang Sheng's hearing ability was raised to the limit. He closely captured every note, every bar, and the resonance of the instruments in each melody. He even listened to the sound of the audience holding their breaths and watching Master use precise command of the beat. Wang Sheng had a very strange feeling in his heart. All of this seemed to be related to him. It was as if he was the greatest conductor hidden behind the scenes, and everything was moving according to his hand gestures. Speaking of which, his cultivation had dropped to the unranked realm. Other than the number of apertures and the spirit space not decreasing, even his strengthened senses of sight, smell, hearing, and taste were not lost. He still maintained his previous sensitivity. The fact that Wang Sheng had maintained his original sensitivity and had not changed was the source of his greatest confidence that he did not care about the drop in his cultivation. Although his cultivation realm was not at the level of mediocre, each acupoint seemed to have shrunk to its limit. He felt that the acupoint was originally the size of a basketball, but after dropping to the third stage, it became the size of a ping-pong ball. Now that he was at the unranked realm, it had become the size of a rice grain. But the consequence of the acupoint shrinking was that the yin and yang qi in each acupoint became more balanced. Although the yang qi still had the upper hand, the yin qi absorbed from Sister Rosa was still not enough. Sometimes, Wang Sheng would think that it would be good if Sister Rosa had more yin qi. Unfortunately, thinking of the pain that Sister Rosa had to bear, Wang Sheng shook his head and gave up on this thought. The music that Master Yu directed the whole band to play was no longer the music score that Wang Sheng had taken out previously. During the practice, Master Yu made some changes to some of the instruments. The main melody was not changed at all, but the coordination of some of the instruments was changed. It was more in line with the characteristics of each instrument, and it became more and more perfect. When it came to understanding each musical instrument, Master Yu was 10 streets ahead of Wang Sheng. With such modifications, he brought out the beauty of each musical instrument to the extreme. If the music score that Wang Sheng took out was 80 points, it was at least 95 points after Master Yu's adjustments. The 9 syllables incantation had to be used together, and it was the same for Tai Chi since there was yin and yang qi in the acupoint. Why would Wang Sheng waste such an opportunity? During the process of the scripture of Tao's scripture of tranquility, the circulating spiritual qi would become 2 types of qi that combined yin and yang. Extreme yin would give birth to yang, and extreme yin would give birth to yin. With the yin and yang combined, one's cultivation would definitely be twice the result with half the effort. Just as Wang Sheng was immersed in the beautiful music, these thoughts surged into his mind unconsciously. At the same time, the spiritual qi in his body seemed to be attracted by something, and it began to flow according to the scripture of Tao's scripture of tranquility. What Wang Sheng did not realize was that the circulation of the spiritual qi was actually very compatible with the music being played. When the music was gentle and melodious, the spiritual qi was slow and elegant. When the music was impassioned, the spiritual qi was also violent and jumpy. One moment it was fast, the next moment it was slow, the next moment it was moving, the next moment it was quiet, the next moment it was yang, and the next moment it was yin. It was stable, calm, and unstoppable. The people upstairs and downstairs were completely immersed in the beautiful melody, and they listened to it as if they were intoxicated. This was especially so when everyone knew that Wang Sheng had contributed more than half of the music they had performed. They were completely engrossed in it, unable to extricate themselves. Only old Taoist Ling Su, who was sitting beside Wang Sheng, could acutely sense the slight change in the spiritual qi around him. When he realized that the source of the change in the spiritual qi was Wang Sheng, he was even more shocked. While quietly observing the changes in the spiritual qi, old Taoist Ling Su enjoyed the music and stood guard for Wang Sheng. During the process, the old Taoist realized that the changes in the spiritual qi caused by Wang Sheng were very well hidden. If he had not been sitting right next to Wang Sheng and separated by a few seats, he would not have noticed Wang Sheng's movements at all. Only someone with the cultivation level of old Taoist Ling Su could sense the turbulent waves hidden under the calm and weak spiritual qi fluctuations at Wang Sheng's side. Of course, old Taoist Ling Su knew what kind of spiritual qi fluctuations Wang Sheng had been like in the past. The changes now could only mean that Wang Sheng had really profited from a disaster this time. He really had a chance to be reborn. At this moment, if someone were to look into Wang Sheng's private room, they would definitely see Mei-er watching the performance on the stage in a daze, listening to the beautiful music. On the other hand, Wang Sheng had his eyes closed, as if he was listening to every single note. As for old Taoist Ling Su, he had a smile on his face and nodded from time to time, like a true music lover. At this moment, the performance of Horse Race had reached its climax. The next piece of music was still Wang Sheng's work, The General's Order. Chapter 832. The butterfly lovers made the audience immersed in a poignant love story, while the moonlit spring night made the audience feel the beauty of a spring night. The heart-cleansing kindness mantra seemed to have the ability to cleanse one's heart and make people feel empty. The horse race made the audience feel as if they were on the prairie, facing the open prairie, controlling the horses, and galloping quickly on the prairie. Every piece had a corresponding emotion. Those who could really appreciate it could taste the emotion conveyed in the music, and then immerse themselves in it, magnify it, and thoroughly understand the music. Fortunately, the audience this time had a very high ability to appreciate art. Even the dozen servants who stood out had been nurtured in the mansions of scholars for a long time, not to mention the girls who were good at zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting since they were young. After every piece was played, there would be a round of warm applause. Master Yu always turned around to greet the audience, and then turned back again to continue the next piece. Boom, 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 boom. A series of big drums surprised the audience. Who would have thought that this piece of music would be played by such a huge drum? The diameter of the drum alone was as long as two people's height added together. The drumsticks hit hard, and it seemed to knock on the hearts of the audience. Involuntarily, before the music entered the main melody, the audience could feel a burst of excitement. The spiritual energy in Wang Sheng's body also surged to the highest point at this time. With the heavy drumming, Wang Sheng's acupuncture points seemed to be jumping with the melody. Every acupuncture point was rotating, and part of the yin and yang qi would condense, but most of it would only rotate in the acupuncture point for a while, and then rush to the next acupuncture point along the circulation route. Under the heavy drumming, the spiritual energy that entered each acupuncture point would rotate along with the yin and yang qi in the acupuncture point itself. After it went out, it would still maintain this state of rotation until the next acupuncture point. In another acupuncture point, it rotated again. After the spiritual energy from the outside world had rotated through a dozen acupuncture points, it had formed a spiral state of yin and yang qi. Every time the spiral-shaped spiritual energy passed through an acupoint, the angle of rotation would increase. By the time it completed a complete cycle, the spiritual energy was like a rope that had been twisted dozens of times, compressed countless times, and filled with elasticity. Boom, 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 boom. The impassioned drumming continued, but Wang Sheng's spiritual energy had already surged along with the drumming for weekday after weekday. As Wang Sheng took in a deep breath, in a place that no one except old Taoist Ling Su noticed, countless streams of Ling Qi gathered in the royal theater from all directions. Because the royal theater was too big, even though there was a lot of spiritual energy, no matter if it was the audience or the royal guards responsible for security outside, none of them could sense the change in the spiritual energy. Outside, old eunuch Shin seemed to have vaguely sensed something. However, when he saw that they were in the center of the royal theater and recalled the many formations he had checked, he did not think much of it. If all the formations inside were activated, it would be normal to trigger a little change in the spiritual energy. The smile on old Taoist Ling Su's face grew wider. As he listened to the wonderful and impassioned command of the general, his spiritual energy sensed the changes in Wang Sheng beside him. Who would have thought that Wang Sheng would be able to get some kind of inspiration while enjoying the concert? He fell into an indescribable state of cultivation and even triggered the tempering of his body with spiritual energy. And out of so many people in the theater, only old Taoist Ling Su noticed it. The tempering of his body with spiritual energy meant that Wang Sheng's cultivation had been completely reduced to the level of nothing, and in less than 3 days, he had returned to the first stage. It might not even have been 3 days. He had only listened to one concert, and he had already achieved this result. This time, after Wang Sheng used the heaven and earth reversal, Wang Sheng had really learned a lot. He just did not know if he could completely solve the problem of Wang Sheng's relatively unstable foundation this time. He could only blame Wang Sheng's previous method of advancement. He did not rely on spiritual energy cultivation at all, but some inexplicable method. He hoped that he could learn a lesson this time and make up for this flaw. The music continued, but Wang Sheng had already woken up from that mysterious state. The tempering of his body with spiritual energy came and went quickly, in the time it took for the 4 songs to be completed. After all, Wang Sheng had already experienced the traditional tempering of his body with spiritual energy once, and it was a level up of nothing. This time, most of the spiritual energy was actually absorbed and stored by Wang Sheng's acupuncture points. When it was completely completed, Wang Sheng felt that his acupuncture points had become the size of broad beans. "You've advanced." Old Taoist Ling Su's voice reached Wang Sheng's ears as soon as he opened his eyes. Hearing the old Taoist's voice, Wang Sheng nodded slightly without batting an eyelid. He knew that the old Taoist could definitely sense it and see his nod. "How do you feel?" The old Taoist was very curious. He used a secret method that only Wang Sheng could hear to communicate with Wang Sheng. It's a bit of a pity. Wang Sheng did not have the old Taoist ability. He tilted his head closer to the old Taoist's ear and whispered, "There's not enough yin qi, and there's an imbalance between yin and yang." Old Taoist Ling Su looked at Wang Sheng with some surprise. After carefully examining him, he nodded slightly. With his eyesight, of course, he could see that Wang Sheng had not reached that perfect state. Because of the music? Old Taoist Ling Su asked curiously. This time, Wang Sheng did not continue to answer. He just nodded slightly again and focused his attention back on the performance. Old Taoist Ling Su did not ask any more questions. He became more and more curious about the music that Wang Sheng had said was only suitable for him to sing. It was already so wonderful after listening to it. He wondered how wonderful it would be when it was specially prepared for him. With bursts of applause, Master Yu and his band finally finished the performance of all the songs this time. When Master Yu and all the band members stood up and saluted the audience, all the audience, led by Wang Sheng, stood up and expressed their highest respect to Master Yu and the rest with the warmest applause. At the same time, they also thanked Master Yu and all the band members for giving a perfect performance. The first unofficial rehearsal ended successfully. The audience left in an orderly manner. Hundreds of beauties appeared again in a very short period of time, causing a group of imperial guards to be dazed again. Old eunuch Shen did not notice this at all. However, when he saw Wang Sheng coming out, he was obviously stunned, and then he fell into deep thought. Chapter 833. Did you see it clearly? In the imperial study, the Emperor, Head Steward Li, and Steward Zhou were present. Steward Zhou was the one asking questions, and the person he was asking was old eunuch Shen, who had just rushed back from the royal theater. "Even though I'm old, my eyesight is still there." Old eunuch Shen only lowered his head towards the Emperor and didn't raise his head to look at Steward Li and Steward Zhou. He also knew that Steward Zhou wasn't doubting him, but he was asking on behalf of the Son of Heaven. Didn't he see how deep the Son of Heaven's brows were? When he entered, he was in an unconventional realm, but when he came out, he was already in the first-degree realm. This time, Tianzi opened his mouth. His face was filled with disbelief, as if he wanted to confirm it with his own mouth. "This servant swears to the heavens that I'm definitely not mistaken." When old eunuch Shun faced the emperor, the content of his words immediately changed. He was respectful and didn't dare to be negligent. The drop in Wang Sheng's cultivation was something that the Son of Heaven and the 3 great reverends knew in their hearts. The last time the 3 great reverends followed Wang Sheng into the land of 1,000 extremities, they didn't stay for long. However, after they came out, the 3 great reverends had to recuperate for a month or 2. At that time, each of them showed signs of a slight drop in their cultivation. One had to know that the 3 great deacons were still at the peak of the legendary realm. Of course, at that time, they thought that was the pinnacle. Only later did they realize that they were still far from it. Even a master of the legendary realm would have his cultivation drop. How could Wang Sheng, who was at most in the 6th or 7th realm, be safe? The previous few times were probably because the duration was short, so the drop wasn't that severe. Otherwise, How could Wang Sheng crazily eat over 100 nature pills for a period of time be explained? He must have wanted to use the good fortune pill to forcefully raise his cultivation level and cover up the fact that his cultivation level had dropped. This time, he definitely couldn't hide it anymore. He had stayed here for too long, causing his cultivation base to drop to the point where his body couldn't withstand the medicinal power of the nature pill. He didn't even dare to eat the nature pill anymore. As soon as he returned, he closed the door and refused to see any guests. Other than the fact that his cultivation was low and he was guarding against a surprise attack from the guests, what other reason could there be? His cultivation had fallen to the level of unranked. How ruthless! It seemed that he couldn't casually send experts below the legendary realm into the core of the land of thousand despair in the future. The imperial family was well aware of the benefits of going in, so they definitely had a more reliable way to nurture experts. However, in just one concert, Wang Sheng had advanced from the unranked realm to the first-degree realm. Was this the credit of Wang Sheng's many days of cultivation, or the credit of the concert? I've been secretly observing the women for the past few months. When they come out at night, there are more than 20 who are obviously slightly different. Old eunuch Shun sighed and told him about the other strange things he saw. I didn't see anything when I went in, but when I came out, some of them were indeed different from a few days ago. Especially that Rosa. Her cultivation has advanced by leaps and bounds. Listening to music has such benefits? Tianzi couldn't help but be a little stunned. After a while, he smiled and said, "If that's the case, then we might as well go and enjoy it carefully. Anyway, this kind of good thing can't be missed." That night, when Tianzi and the three great consecrators were discussing whether the concert was good for cultivation, the imperial guards on duty had already been laid off and went home. They had already spread the news of the beautiful women they saw at that time. The beauties collected by Duke Changsheng were wearing beautiful clothes that they had never seen before, revealing a variety of temperament that they had never imagined before. The scene of them leisurely walking from the carriage into the grand theater was a scene that countless people dreamed of. Those beautiful clothes looked a little naked, but those beauties gave people a sense of nobility that they had never seen before. They were sexy, but there was no trace of worldly aura at all. Any one of them was like a high and mighty lady, making people want to crawl under their feet. Wang Sheng had single-handedly occupied so many top-grade beauties. When everyone talked about it, they all gritted their teeth in hatred. In fact, everyone knew that it wasn't hatred but jealousy. They were jealous that Wang Sheng had such good luck with women, and they were jealous of everything Wang Sheng had. That glimpse left such a deep impression on them that even when they returned home and saw the women in their homes, these guys' first reaction was to compare the women in their homes with those noble ladies. Then, they directly came to a depressing conclusion. The news inevitably spread. Therefore, many women knew that the beauties collected by Duke Changsheng were wearing incomparably beautiful clothes, elegant temperament, and sexy and charming figure. All of them were the source of envy and jealousy for all women. Countless socialites and upper-class ladies were thinking of one thing, and that was to quickly go to moisturizing workshop tomorrow and ask what the hell was up with those so-called beautiful clothes. Even Sister Rosa didn't know that they had already had their first batch of potential customers unknowingly. Wang Sheng left with Master Yu. Of course, Mei and old Taoist Ling Su were also there. Along the way, Wang Sheng was full of praise from Master Yu and kept giving him a thumbs up, especially those adapted by Master Yu. He held him in high esteem. Mei had long been shocked by the band's perfect performance. Until now, she had not completely recovered from that shock. Listening to Wang Sheng's words of praise from Master Yu, Mei kept nodding her head. Only old Taoist Ling Su looked indifferent, but in fact he was also nodding his head frequently in his heart. He had never thought that the combination of a few musicians and a zither player would be able to make the songs he had heard before into such a wonderful one. As for the songs composed by Wang Sheng, they were even more marvelous than the others. Master Yu was not an ordinary person. He kept asking Wang Sheng to point out the flaws of this performance. Wang Sheng did not hold back. He pointed out the things that he had heard and realized without concealing anything. Fortunately, they were just some small problems. They could be perfected with a little improvement. There was no need for a big change. Then, the official performance will be held in 3 days. After the discussion, Wang Sheng set a time for Master Yu. At that time, I will invite the Emperor, the Empress, and some members of the royal family to attend. There will also be many important officials. Master, you must not make any mistakes. This was related to the Emperor's identity as an artist recognized by the imperial court. It was the best opportunity to get rid of the identity of a craftsman and musician. How could Master Yu not take it seriously? He directly guaranteed to Wang Sheng that there would not be any problems. From tomorrow onwards, he and the band members would live in the Grand Theater. They would practice every day until it was perfect. When they returned to the Duke's mansion and there were no outsiders, old Taoist Ling Su asked Wang Sheng, "What do you mean by not having enough yin qi after your advancement today?" Chapter 834. Advancement? Insufficient yin qi? Mei was the most sensitive about Wang Sheng's body. As soon as she heard about Wang Sheng, she immediately paid attention. "Duke, you've advanced. It's just from the unranked realm to the first stage." Wang Sheng smiled and replied to Mei, "Really?" Mei-er's surprised expression made Wang Sheng's heart move. Looking at Mei-er's tired eyes, Wang Sheng felt that he had really made Mei-er suffer during this period of time. He nodded at Mei-er very seriously. Mei suddenly jumped on Wang Sheng's body excitedly, hugging Wang Sheng and jumping happily. Wang Sheng could only hold Mei-er's slender waist, for fear that she would fall to the ground. When Mei-er's cries quieted down, Wang Sheng said softly to Mei-er, "Be good, don't move. The Taoist is still here." At this time, Mei-er remembered that Taoist Ling Su was still beside her. She suddenly became very shy and cried out in a low voice. She jumped down from Wang Sheng and did not dare to look at old Taoist Ling Su. She quickly ran away with a red face. However, even if she ran away, Wang Sheng could still feel that there was a lot more joy in her running movements. "What do you mean by insufficient yin qi?" Old Taoist Ling Su asked again. "That's exactly what I mean." Wang Sheng answered very straightforwardly. Yin and yang qi are formed in the acupuncture points, but they are not balanced. There is sufficient yang qi and weak yin qi. You also know that even when I was at my strongest cultivation, I could not achieve the balance of yin and yang. Old Taoist Ling Su reached out and put his hand on Wang Sheng's wrist pulse. Wang Sheng trusted the old Taoist very much. He was not on guard at all and let the old Taoist check. A spiritual energy rushed into Wang Sheng's body, and then the spiritual energy in Wang Sheng's body was stimulated by this foreign spiritual energy and immediately reacted. A yin and yang spiritual energy burst out from each acupuncture point to resist this foreign spiritual energy. Immediately after, the godly venomous spirit in the soul origin space quickly changed, turning into 1024 Tao Tai. The Tao Tai opened their big mouths. This foreign spiritual qi that came from the old Taoist was completely swallowed by so many Tao Tai one by one. The old Taoist was not surprised by the speed at which Wang Sheng's spirit swallowed spiritual energy. His original purpose was to check the condition of Wang Sheng's spiritual energy, and now he was very clear about the nature of Wang Sheng's spiritual energy. Old Taoist Ling Su lowered his head and pondered for a while, then nodded. "Indeed, there is insufficient yin qi." After confirming Wang Sheng's current state, he continued, "You have such yin and yang spiritual energy in the first stage. You are indeed much stronger than before. Continue to cultivate. Maybe you can achieve the balance of yin and yang before you reach the 8th stage." Old Taoist Ling Su was a true cultivator. He valued orthodox cultivation the most. At this moment, Wang Sheng's situation also inspired the old Taoist. Can the Taoist Canon Heart Sutra be integrated into the Tai Chi Heart Sutra? Good idea. Wang Sheng nodded and praised. If there was a set of Tai Chi Heart Sutra of guarding tranquility, it would definitely be a super Taoist Heart Sutra that no one had ever had before or since. Even without the Heart Sutra of guarding tranquility, the Tai Chi Heart Sutra alone was enough to shake the Taoist community. Wang Sheng and old Taoist Ling Su were very excited. They did not care about anything else and directly began to discuss how to integrate the Tai Chi Heart Sutra into the Taoist Canon Heart Sutra. They were discussing excitedly. Mei blushed shyly for a moment before sneaking back to the side. Seeing Wang Sheng and Taoist Ling Su's discussion, she did not disturb them. Instead, she quietly instructed the kitchen to prepare some dishes for the two of them and personally brought them over. Seeing that the two of them did not care about anything else and started to eat and drink while discussing, she covered her mouth and quietly left. With old Taoist Ling Su around, there was no need to worry about Wang Sheng's safety at all. Moreover, all of Mei actions were actually under the surveillance of Wang Sheng and old Taoist Ling Su. It was Mei. If it were someone else, they might not be able to get in and out so easily. After instructing several maids to keep an eye on the two masters from a distance and be ready to serve them at any time, Mei went straight to the prince's mansion with her guards. Although it was already nighttime, none of the women who came back from the concert venue were resting. When Mei came over, the women were gathered together and sharing everyone's happiness happily. Tantai Yao and elder sister Rosa happily pulled Mei into the crowd, and they were happy together. They talked about the beautiful clothes that everyone wore tonight, the beauty of the grand theater, the beauty of the concert, the subtlety of Master Yu's direction, and the beautiful music. All of them were as happy as a large group of ducks. Mei stayed with them until Tantai Yao said that it was getting late and it was time to rest. She then stopped. Elder sister Tantai, elder sister Rosa, and more than 10 women who had been doing management work during this period came to the prince's mansion's meeting hall with Mei. The Duke had some enlightenment during the concert and returned to the first stage from the unranked realm. Mei knew that these women were trustworthy, so she told them the good news that she heard from old Taoist Ling Su. Elder sister Rosa stood up on the spot and almost cried tears of joy. If it wasn't for her, Wang Sheng's cultivation would not have dropped. Elder sister Rosa had always felt that it was her fault. Now that Wang Sheng had finally started to recover, elder sister Rosa was even happier than when her problem of excessive yin qi was solved. But the Duke also said that there was insufficient yin qi. Mei then repeated Wang Sheng's words. After Elder Daozhang's analysis, he concluded that it was because Elder Daozhang's cultivation was insufficient. Before he reached at least the 8th stage, he would not be able to reach the realm of yin and yang coexisting. But Elder Taoist also said that the Duke benefited from the disaster this time. Although his cultivation dropped, there was yin and yang at the beginning, so his cultivation would be twice the result with half the effort. The sisters were afraid that Rosa's yin qi was too strong and dared not to cultivate. The Duke didn't have enough yin qi to coexistence. Isn't this a ready-made opportunity? Tantai Yao's eyes lit up and immediately said, "Why don't we continue to let Rosa absorb the sisters' yin qi and give it to the Duke? Let the Duke's cultivation drop again." Mei glanced at Tantai Yao and said with dissatisfaction, "We didn't have the experience previously. We let Rosa absorb more than 20 sisters' yin qi, which made Rosa suffer. The Duke's cultivation was also affected." Tantai Yao didn't care about Mei's dissatisfaction at all and said excitedly, "A fall into the pit, a gain in your wit. Rosa doesn't need to absorb so much at one time. Just absorb 3 to 5 sisters' yin qi and give it to the Duke. Isn't that enough?" The logic was simple and Mei could understand it. She turned to look at elder sister Rosa. Elder sister Rosa blushed and thought of something. But when she looked at Mei's eyes, she nodded without hesitation and said, "As long as the Duke is well, I'm not afraid, even if it's a little hard. I'm just afraid that it will affect the Duke. Can Madam ask Elder Taoist how to control it?" "Leave it to me." Mei was very satisfied with elder sister Rosa's attitude. She pulled Rosa up and didn't care that it was still night. "Let's go to the Duke's mansion with me. I'll ask Elder Taoist now." Chapter 835. It was already midnight when Mei brought Sister Rosa and Tantai Yao back to the Duke's residence. Wang Sheng was in the middle of another round of cultivation. This time, everyone was very close to Wang Sheng. Thus, they could all sense Wang Sheng's frenzied absorption of spiritual energy. Outside Wang Sheng's cultivation room, spiritual energy gathered fiercely into Wang Sheng's practice room, almost forming a small whirlwind. If it wasn't for the huge spirit gathering array in the Duke's residence, Wang Sheng's crazy absorption of spiritual energy would have completely absorbed half of the spiritual energy around the Duke's residence. Is this spiritual energy tempering? Tantai Yao asked with uncertainty. No. Old Taoist Ling Su was drinking outside the practice room. He answered directly, it's just normal cultivation. Would normal cultivation cause such a big commotion? Just by feeling the effect of the crazy surge of spiritual energy, Tantai Yao realized that Wang Sheng's cultivation was probably a blessing in disguise this time. In fact, it was a great blessing. This was the state that Mayer mentioned, where yin qi was insufficient and yin yang couldn't coexist. Tantai Yao was an expert in the legendary realm, so she naturally knew what yin yang coexist meant. In fact, Tantai Yao could already coexist yin and yang. At her realm, she basically didn't need a man and could continue to cultivate with yin and yang balanced. If Wang Sheng really reached the state of yin and yang balanced, what kind of power would he have in his future cultivation? This was only the first realm. What would happen if he reached a higher realm? There's no need to look. He can't control his absorption of spiritual energy when he cultivates, so that's why there's such a big commotion. Old Taoist Ling Su seemed to know what Tantai Yao was thinking and explained it to her. Of course, he was also explaining it to Mei and Sister Rosa. Sister Rosa now had more than 20 beauties performing the heaven and earth reversal, and Wang Sheng also performing the heaven and earth reversal on her, so her cultivation speed was astonishing. Everyone knew this before, but they hadn't been here for a few days. When old Taoist Ling Su carefully observed Sister Rosa, he suddenly felt a little surprised. The old Taoist walked up to Sister Rosa and looked at Rosa from head to toe. He suddenly asked, has your cultivation returned to normal? It's not as fast and effective as before? Yes, Taoist priest. Sister Rosa did not dare to hide the truth and quickly answered. That's right. Taoist Master Ling Su nodded. If the effect is still as fierce after a few days, then it's not right. This is just right. It's much stronger than before, but it's not as fierce, so it won't cause any damage. Taoist priest. Is the Duke like this because he doesn't have enough yin qi? Mayer finally found a chance to speak and asked. It has a certain impact, but not entirely. Taoist Master Ling Su did not completely confirm or deny it. He admitted part of it. Taoist priest, I have an idea for the Duke's current condition. Mayer thought for a moment and decided that she still had to say it. Thus, she told old Taoist Ling Su about her thoughts and Sister Rosa's concerns. She sincerely asked old Taoist Ling Su if it was possible. This kind of cultivation is not the right way. Old Taoist Ling Su had been diligent in his cultivation all his life and had never taken such a shortcut. He did not completely deny Mei Er's suggestion, but he did not support it in his heart. Taoist priest, there's also the concept of dual cultivation in Taoism. This is something that benefits both sides. Tantai Yao knew that if she didn't speak up, she wouldn't have another chance. Even if it was for the sake of her disciples and her sisters who had entrusted their future and hopes to Wang Sheng, she had to speak up and fight for this opportunity. Taoist priest, the method of dual cultivation is not to harm one person to help the other. Old Taoist Ling Su still shook his head. Taoist priest, if the Duke complements his yin and yang, will it be good for him or bad for him? Mayer interrupted and asked again. Of course there will be benefits. Old Taoist Ling Su answered without thinking. Harming one person to benefit another was the devil's way, but complementing yin and yang was the great way of Taoism. It was just that ordinary people could not easily reach this state. However, no matter how good it was, the old Taoist did not seem to be willing. He was different from the Grand Abbey Dean. The Grand Abbey Dean saw the situation and knew that it would bring benefits to both sides. He knew that it would allow Wang Sheng to obtain a group of beautiful legendary realm experts, so the Grand Abbey Dean would definitely agree. However, old Taoist Ling Su was different. He hoped that Wang Sheng would cultivate step by step and not use this method. Real cultivation was not a shortcut. Although it could allow Wang Sheng to reach a mysterious state in a short period of time, it would still be a fly in the ointment if some necessary steps were missing. Just when Mei and Tantai Yao could not persuade old Taoist Ling Su, and both of them were at their wits' end, Sister Rosa then knelt in front of old Taoist Ling Su. Taoist priest, I am willing to use heaven and earth reversal to help the Duke recover quickly. Please allow it. After saying that, she kowtowed and refused to get up again. Using heaven and earth reversal won't do him any good. If you really do that, you will be harming him. Old Taoist Ling Su was unmoved. He calmly shook his head and said, there's no need for a quick recovery. Cultivating seriously once again will only make his future path wider and wider. If you guys really want to help him, then don't use such a stupid method. Sister Rosa was frightened by old Taoist Ling Su's extremely serious words. Not to mention Sister Rosa. Even Mayor would not be willing to let Sister Rosa use heaven and earth reversal on Wang Sheng. If she really harmed Wang Sheng, even 100 deaths would not be enough to atone for it. Wait, Sister Rosa still wanted to say something, but old Taoist Ling Su suddenly sensed something and asked everyone to be quiet. There seemed to be some changes in spiritual qi in Wang Sheng's practice room. Old Taoist Ling Su was stunned. What was going on? Actually, after Wang Sheng came back with the inspiration for the use of the 9 symbolic words, he had thought about a lot. After chatting with old Taoist Ling Su about the integration of the Tai Chi Taoist canon, he began to cultivate. Naturally, he thought of using the 9 symbolic words together. The 9 little men with combat awareness had been simulating the 9 symbolic words together for several hours. The time was too short, so they did not gain much. However, this did not stop Wang Sheng from using it. In any case, cultivation and recovery, the army incantation, the man incantation, and the first incantation were very important. The others might not be useless, so he just used them on himself first. After all, they were for himself. With Wang Sheng's current mastery of the 9 symbolic words, there were only advantages and no disadvantages. The only thing he had to worry about was that he was only at the first stage, so he did not have enough spiritual qi. In the beginning, Wang Sheng tried to use the 9 symbolic words at the same time, but he did not succeed. After stumbling a dozen times, he finally managed to use 3 words at the same time. At this time, the spiritual qi that had been cultivated to the first stage gave Wang Sheng a big surprise. Chapter 836. Based on Wang Sheng's current realm, he estimated that the total amount of spiritual qi he had was at most 4 or 5 words of the 9 words Buddhist incantation. However, it was obvious that the spiritual qi stored in the cyclone of yin and yang of Tai Chi had far exceeded Wang Sheng's estimation. By using the 3 words at the same time, Wang Sheng had used them more than 10 times in a row, but the spiritual qi was still not exhausted. It was several times more than what Wang Sheng had estimated. Wang Sheng's aura was already secretive enough. In addition, Wang Sheng had been using the 9 words Buddhist incantation on himself. As a result, even outside the training room, old Taoist Ling Su did not notice that Wang Sheng was practicing the 9 words Buddhist incantation. However, the effect of using the 3 words at the same time was already apparent. At the beginning, when everyone rushed over, they discovered that the spiritual qi around Wang Sheng's training room was violent because of this. However, no one noticed the reason why Wang Sheng's spiritual qi was violent. They all thought that it was because Wang Sheng could not control the spiritual qi effectively, which was why it became like this. Every time he used the 3 words at the same time, the spiritual qi would be chaotic because he was not proficient enough or because he did not have enough tacit understanding with them. Fortunately, he was still able to complete a complete practice for a weekday every time. There would be more spiritual qi in the acupuncture points for Wang Sheng to continue using the 9 words Buddhist incantation. Wang Sheng knew that it was not easy to use the 9 words Buddhist incantation at the same time, but he did not expect it to be so troublesome. Even if he only used the 3 words at the same time, sometimes this word was too much, and sometimes that word was a little too much. In short, it was very difficult to coordinate them seamlessly. This also caused the spiritual qi around Wang Sheng to be in a mess during the process of practicing, which made old Taoist Ling Su, who was guarding outside, frown again and again. Such a messy aura. How unreliable was it when he was practicing the spiritual qi in the basic practice? This should not happen. The basic skills of Taoism should not have such a situation. Mayer came over with Sister Rosa and Tantai Yao. After saying so much, Wang Sheng was finally able to control the use of the 3 words at the same time, and his aura finally stabilized. However, it was already the end of Wang Sheng's practice. In less than a few minutes, Wang Sheng ended the practice. As soon as Wang Sheng came out, old Taoist Ling Su frowned and asked, "What's wrong with your aura?" Old Taoist Ling Su. As soon as Wang Sheng's words came out, Taoist Ling Sheng, the word Sheng's incantation, Feng Ling of Taoist Yu was 9 Sheng, said out of the words Wang Sheng was of words. Wang Sheng's talent was brought about by the upgrade of his original soul, while the old Taoist Ling Su had to cultivate from the beginning. They were not on the same level at all. In other words, old Taoist Ling Su could only use the Buddhist incantation of 9 words word by word at most. He was not proficient enough. Old Taoist Ling Su had not reached the point where he could imagine using several incantations at the same time. Therefore, there are some things that Wang Sheng could not communicate with old Taoist Ling Su. He could only say that his foundation was not good enough. Maybe it's because I don't have a good foundation in spiritual energy cultivation, so my control is a bit messy. Wang Sheng replied casually. Seeing that Mayer was worried again, Wang Sheng quickly added, "But it's not a big deal. It will slowly stabilize later." His performance in the later stages was indeed like that. Old Taoist Ling Su did not say much, and Mayer was also relieved. Wang Sheng saw that everyone was there and was very curious. He looked at Mayer and waited for her explanation. Mayer did not hide anything from Wang Sheng and told Wang Sheng about her thoughts. Sister Rosa even expressed that she was willing to help Wang Sheng perform the heaven and earth reversal technique at any time. There's no need for that now. Wang Sheng smiled and shook his head in rejection. Seeing Mayer's unhappy expression, Wang Sheng hurriedly explained, "It's not that I don't need your help, but I'm only in the first realm now. Let me recover for a period of time, then we'll see how things go." Everyone thought about it and agreed. Using the heaven and earth reversal technique at the first stage was purely a waste. In addition, even if Sister Rosa was willing to use the same method to transfer yin qi to Wang Sheng, it would require Wang Sheng's cultivation to recover to a certain level. At the first stage, Wang Sheng might not even be able to fully perform the heaven and earth reversal before he fell back to the unrated realm. Finally, he managed to persuade Mayer and Sister Rosa to stop thinking about it. After sending off Sister Rosa and Mayer, Wang Sheng thanked old Taoist Ling Su. Then, accompanied by Mayer, they returned to the bedroom to rest. In the soul space, the 9 little people with battle consciousness began to simulate and optimize the random combination of the 3 words. In one night, they had calculated more than 10,000 combinations. Early the next morning, after Mayer had breakfast with Wang Sheng, she was informed by someone from Moisturizer Workshop before she could even leave the house. Many of Moisturizer Workshop's big clients were about to explode, and they immediately asked Mayer to go and calm them down. Not knowing what had happened, Mayer was shocked and rushed to the moisturizing workshop. Sure enough, a large group of noble ladies did not have their beauty treatments. Instead, they surrounded the manager of Runzi Workshop, waiting for Mayer's arrival. It was only after Mayer asked that he felt relieved. It turned out that these big customers wanted to know what the beauties in Wang Sheng's collection were wearing and wanted to buy a few sets for themselves. With great difficulty, Mei Er pacified these excited female customers and then told them that the workshop next to it was being rebuilt. Once it was finished, the business in this area would immediately start. Only after he gave them a specific time did the women cease their activities. Seeing these ladies leave one by one, Mei Er's heart was filled with pride. The idea that her duke came up with could easily make countless people crazily chase after it. Even before the opening, there were already people who could not hold back. Mei Er could now completely imagine the grand scene after the opening of the new business. Thinking about it, Wang Sheng was simply able to turn his hand and summon the rain. No, I have to quickly tell this news to Wang Sheng, lest Wang Sheng worry about what happened. After rushing back and telling them what happened here, Wang Sheng finally understood. It turned out that even before the opening, the potential customers had already come to the door. That night, Wang Sheng asked the women to wear dresses to attend the concert. The advertising effect was really strong. No, it seems that it's still lacking a little. Wang Sheng thought of a problem. He forgot to do it before he left, and now he had to make up for it. Still lacking what? Mei Er asked inexplicably. She felt that everything was almost ready. What was missing? Still missing a pair of beautiful shoes. Wang Sheng replied with a smile. Wearing a beautiful dress. Can't wear a pair of ugly and shoddy shoes on the feet? Let's go to the Wang mansion. While the opening has not yet begun, let's talk about the shoes. Chapter 837. This was due to Wang Sheng's negligence. When designing dresses for the girls, he forgot the most important thing, high-heeled shoes. As a result, when the girls went to the concert that day, they wore all kinds of shoes on their feet. Now the customer base was eager to take the initiative to top up. How could Wang Sheng let this defect continue to exist? He had to remedy it quickly. Cultivation had to continue, but Wang Sheng could not cultivate all the time. On the other hand, the little person with combat awareness had been calculating and optimizing nonstop. It had analyzed at least hundreds of high-efficiency combinations and was still screening further. Wang Sheng himself could do other things while focusing on cultivation in his heart. In the Wang residence, Wang Sheng gathered Sister Rose and the other female grandmasters together and apologized to them. He had made a mistake in his busy schedule and had forgotten something important. As a result, the beauties did not perform at their best during the concert that night. Of course, the girls could not do anything to Wang Sheng, but they were curious about the important thing Wang Sheng said. At this time, Wang Sheng told them about the design of high-heeled shoes. It was a one-time thing. Wang Sheng took out a number of high-heeled shoes designs, and several beauties in charge of drawing and design drew about 30 or 40 pictures on the spot. Basically, all kinds of high-heeled shoes were made according to different heel heights, different heel thicknesses, different vamp colors, and different vamp materials. There were no less than hundreds of combinations. When these were finished, the girls looked at the small part of the pictures that had been drawn, and they were all shocked, speechless. Just looking at them made them look beautiful, and they could not imagine what they would look like after wearing them. Following that, Wang Sheng assigned a task to everyone, which was to let everyone learn how to wear high heels. They had to learn how to walk like a cat in the wind. This was especially so for those who wanted to be models. This was a necessary skill. Wang Sheng did not indulge in earning gold coins, nor did he slack off on his work. After experiencing the sudden flash of inspiration at the concert, Wang Sheng became more and more certain that cultivation could not be achieved by immersing oneself in hard work and finally reaching the realm of old Taoist Ling Su. Even old Taoist Ling Su had nothing to do but copy ancient books and run away from home. If he really stayed in the Laojun Taoist temple and practiced hard, he would at best be in the realm of the Qing generation. Therefore, Wang Sheng would not be so stupid as to only know how to cultivate. There was knowledge and inspiration everywhere in life. Why should he be trapped in the circle of hard work? As long as he practiced on time, that would be enough. In the rest of the time, whether it was to enjoy life or enjoy the fun of adventure, he had to find some interests in things that could kill the time. Wang Sheng would not lack the necessary exercise, but he would never completely abandon other things. This was Wang Sheng's principle of cultivation. At noon, Wang Sheng was cultivating in the prince's mansion. In the morning, the little person with combat awareness had arranged tens of thousands of ways to use the three-word formula at the same time. If it was simply calculated according to the arrangement and combination, it was impossible to have so many ways. However, the use of the Buddhist incantation of 9 words at the same time was not only a matter of arrangement and combination. There were also many factors to consider, such as the master and subordinate of each word formula, the strength and weakness, and so on. With these factors taken into account, the combinations could almost be said to be endless. However, after optimization, there were only a few hundred left. Among these hundreds, there would be further optimization, and strive to be limited to a few dozen. With dozens of different ways, Wang Sheng could basically deal with most cultivation situations. Arranging was one thing, and being able to implement it was another. During the process of cultivation, Wang Sheng still showed some instability in his control of his spiritual energy, which made the women very worried. However, everyone knew that even if they were to think of a way, they could only think about it after Wang Sheng's cultivation had recovered. Otherwise, it would be easy to have problems. The Great Master and 2 Great Masters worked very quickly. It only took 2 days for more than a dozen different kinds of high-heeled shoes to be sent to Wang Sheng. According to Wang Sheng's design, there were different sizes, and special attention was paid to comfort. Otherwise, wearing high-heeled shoes would simply be a common thing. They were all great masters, and if such a situation occurred, it would definitely ruin their reputation. These dozens of pairs of shoes would never have those low-level problems. Wang Sheng let a few models with suitable foot sizes put them on, and then began to guide the steps of the models. When more than a dozen beautiful models wore dresses that Wang Sheng had carefully matched and walked around leisurely, the women watching from the side were all stunned. How did the Duke come up with such beautiful and charming shoes? The women went to practice on their own, and more beautiful women urged the few great masters to make more suitable sizes for them. No matter what the shape was, they had to wear it and learn to walk first. Finally, this shortcoming was made up for, and Wang Sheng could also continue to cultivate with peace of mind. In more than 2 days, the little person with combat awareness had optimized the combination of the 3 words at the same time to about 100, which was already the 100 most suitable for cultivation. During Wang Sheng's several cultivation sessions, he kept using these combinations. He had to experience each one personally before he could finally determine which combination was the most suitable for his cultivation. This also caused Wang Sheng to continue to be in a state of unstable control of his spiritual energy when he cultivated these days. Old Taoist Ling Su and Mei Er were a little anxious. They did not know what had happened to Wang Sheng, but Wang Sheng was very normal on other occasions, except when he was cultivating. Old Taoist Ling Su could only attribute this to Wang Sheng's previous cultivation foundation being unstable. As for Mei Er, she firmly believed that this problem must have occurred because he had not reached the level of yin and yang complementation. On the 3rd day, Chief Steward Li came looking for him. This time, Wang Sheng did not avoid meeting Chief Steward Li and met him at the Duke's mansion. The purpose of Chief Steward Li's visit was very simple. Tonight was the first official performance of the Royal Theater. Wang Sheng had invited the Emperor, the Empress, and some imperial concubines to attend. He had also invited some members of the royal family and important officials of the court. In any case, the 1,000-seat theater was full. Since the Emperor and the Empress had to attend, the issue of safety naturally could not be relaxed. Chief Steward Li came to confirm with Wang Sheng how to carry out the safety of the theater. Wang Sheng had experience in this area, so he enthusiastically pointed out a few ways to protect the political figures on Earth. Chief Steward Li listened as if he had found a treasure. He could not wait to immediately ask Wang Sheng to tell him everything he knew. Chapter 838. After saying a few key points, Wang Sheng stopped and no longer spoke. Chief Steward Li's heart was itching, but he had no other choice. Of course, he couldn't force Wang Sheng in the Duke's mansion, right? However, what Wang Xing said was something that Chief Steward Li and the others had never thought of before. But from the point of view of a guard, these security points couldn't be more thorough. With just a few words from Wang Sheng, Chief Steward Li and the others had always been proud of the royal guard method became a joke. It was no wonder Wang Sheng was able to enter the imperial city's inner city so easily. If it was before, Chief Steward Li thought that it was Wang Sheng's ability to enter and exit the formation that played a key role. Now that he heard Wang Sheng's advice, Chief Steward Li immediately changed his opinion. Even if he didn't have that ability, if Wang Sheng wanted to enter and exit the inner city, it wouldn't be a difficult thing. It would just take a little more time. In the Duke's mansion, Wang Xing only casually gave a few pointers on the security of the Royal Grand Theater, and it had already poked the weakness that Chief Steward Li had personally arranged. If there was really someone like Wang Sheng who wanted to assassinate the Son of Heaven, the Son of Heaven would have died a few times according to the security measures that he had arranged. Luckily, Wang Sheng wasn't an enemy. Chief Steward Li's back was covered in cold sweat. Seeing that Wang Sheng didn't have any more pointers, he quickly got up and left to make up for the gap. He didn't dare to delay even for a moment. Although it was the first official concert, there was still a ceremony before it, which was the hanging out of the Royal Grand Theater. Fortunately, this ceremony was relatively simple. The officials from the Ministry of Rites had already set the steps. The Son of Heaven only needed to take out the imperial edict and let the officials read it. As for the leader's speech, since when did the Son of Heaven easily show his face outside? Sometimes in the court, he was too lazy to speak, and it was the eunuchs who did the talking. If it wasn't for the Royal Grand Theater hanging out with a sign, the Son of Heaven wouldn't be bothered. It wasn't that no one had advised the Son of Heaven not to do such a lowly thing, but since the Son of Heaven had the idea of building the capital into a cultural and artistic center, how could he not pay attention to this? As the saying goes, a tortoise eats the weight of a steelyard. He was determined to promote the great brand built by the royal family. For this, he paid tens of millions of gold coins, causing many ministers to feel distressed. How good would it be if all these gold coins went into the imperial treasury? Wang Sheng was definitely going to attend. This time, he brought 3 people with him: Mayor, Sister Rosa, and old Taoist Ling Su. Every noble who attended the banquet brought at least one female companion. Those with wives brought their wives, and those without wives brought their daughters. In short, the ratio of men to women was about the same. It was also one of the rare royal events where some of the noble women and socialites showed up. After the short unveiling ceremony of the Royal Grand Theater, the Son of Heaven, Empress, Wang Sheng, Mayor, and Rosa entered the centermost box on the second floor together under the heavy protection of the Imperial Guards. Old Taoist Ling Su was also there. Although the Son of Heaven might not make a move on Wang Sheng, old Taoist Ling Su was not at ease. With his status as the oldest ancestor of Laojun Taoist Temple, he was qualified to sit in this box. Because of old Taoist Ling Su's presence, all 3 of the royal high priests were also sitting in the box. They were still worried about old Taoist Ling Su. Master Yu and the others had been practicing hard for 3 days. After correcting the few flaws that Wang Sheng mentioned, the band felt that they had reached perfection. They were just waiting to perform in front of the Son of Heaven. It was still the little steward from last time, but he had been promoted to the MC. He appeared on the stage first, bowed to the opposite side, and began to explain the rules of the concert to the official audience. The officials from the Ministry of Rites in the audience shook their heads. How dare a few mere musicians ask the Son of Heaven and the officials of the imperial court to follow their rules? They didn't know how high the sky was. However, the Son of Heaven had already said that since they came to the theater, they had to follow the rules. Especially since the Grand Theater and this band were the handiwork of Duke Changsheng. Duke Changsheng was favored by the emperor, so if they didn't want to offend him, they could only nod their heads. Master Yu led the musicians out and began to bow to the audience. The audience also showed their respect and responded with a warm applause. Wang Sheng could clearly see that Master Yu was very relaxed, but the musicians were a little nervous. Thinking about it, it was normal. Master Yu didn't care if it was the son of heaven or the empress. He was more willing to play for Wang Sheng. The musicians knew the identity of the audience, especially the son of heaven and the empress, so they were nervous and excited. Under Master Yu's direction, the music began to play, including the son of heaven and the empress. It was the first time for most of the people here to see and hear the sound of a piano, not to mention the various kinds of violins. Fortunately, there was a group of instruments that they were familiar with. Liang Zhu's melodious tunes sounded, and soon the audience was immersed in the beautiful music. It had to be said that regardless of whether it was the members of the royal family, the officials and nobles, or the dukes of the imperial court, they were all well-educated and reasonable. It was rare to see those unbearably vulgar people. When they listened carefully, they could also taste the quality of the music. After listening to Liang Zhu, most of the women in the audience had tears in their eyes. Even the empress was no exception. She grabbed Mayer with one hand, and tears almost flowed out of her eyes. It was only a piece, but most of the people in the theater had already been attracted to the music. It must be said that the music that they used to think could only be used for entertainment really had a different feeling. Only a few people's minds were not on the band's performance. For example, old Taoist Ling Su only cared about feeling Wang Sheng's breath. The same was true for the three high priests. At such a close distance, how could they not notice the change in Wang Sheng's breath with their cultivation? As for Wang Sheng himself, he had once again fallen into the state of cultivating along with the music. But this time, Wang Sheng used the three-word formula together. The amazing thing was that when he cultivated quietly, the spiritual energy around Wang Sheng would definitely be a little scattered and violent when he used the three-word formula together. But when he cultivated along with the music, there was no such problem at all. In the original soul space, his original soul had already turned into Qianyo, and he was listening to the music outside with an intoxicated look. The spiritual energy in Wang Sheng's body was also flowing according to the rhythm and height of the music. It was simply amazing. Old Taoist Ling Su was surprised, and the three high priests were even more surprised. How could Wang Sheng cultivate while listening to music? Wang Sheng was already very surprising and puzzling, but when Sister Rosa, who was next to Wang Sheng, began to fall into the same state, even if the three high priests did not want to admit it, they had to come to the conclusion that the music played by such a skilled master was indeed helpful in cultivation. As a matter of fact, even the three high priests felt relieved when they heard the heart-purifying universal kindness mantra. Chapter 839. Wang Sheng was practically setting up a difficult problem for the three great priests and old Taoist Ling Su. He continued to cultivate according to the rhythm of the concert. When he heard the impassioned general's command, again, the spiritual energy in Wang Sheng's body surged, triggering the tempering of his body with spiritual energy once again. As before, countless spiritual energy in the surroundings was absorbed by the entire theater and transferred into Wang Sheng's body. Apart from the four experts in Wang Sheng's private room, even Mayer and Rosa, who were beside him, did not notice the change in Wang Sheng. After all, he was cultivating again after lowering his realm. The scale and commotion of the tempering of his body with the spiritual energy of heaven and earth could not be compared to the first time. However, this was enough for Wang Sheng. A huge amount of spiritual energy rushed into his body in a frenzy. It was divided into yin and yang qi in his acupuncture points, and then rotated, compressed, and purified. It went through one acupuncture point at a time. When he had completely passed through all the acupuncture points of the Taoist scripture of calmness, the purity of the spiritual energy had been compressed to an unimaginable level. The acupuncture points gradually expanded in the continuous cycle of absorption. When the concert came to an end, Wang Sheng's advancement was complete. He felt that the acupuncture point, which was the size of a broad bean, had grown to the size of a peach pit. After confirming that the three great priests would not make a move, old Taoist Ling Su began to focus on why Wang Sheng could make a breakthrough while listening to the music. Not only old Taoist Ling Su, but even the three great priests had the same thought. Was there something unique about this music? Old Taoist Ling Su listened, but he could not figure it out. The tune was beautiful enough, the instruments were exquisite enough, and the musicians had a tacit understanding with each other. However, was this enough? Why did he not have the ability to immerse himself in the music and cultivate with the rhythm like Wang Sheng? Could it be that he had overlooked something? Suddenly, old Taoist Ling Su saw the figure of Master Yu commanding. To be honest, old Taoist Ling Su had never paid much attention to Master Yu. That was because, in his opinion, Master Yu was a master in making musical instruments. Other than that, he was just a conductor. He did not even play a musical instrument. He only held a small stick and waved it around. Anyone could do such a simple thing. However, as he watched Master Yu wave the baton, he suddenly realized that there was an indescribable rhythm in Master Yu's movements. Old Taoist Ling Su was not surprised that Master Yu was an expert. Master Lu, whom he knew, was also a great grandmaster. He had reached the 8th stage of cultivation a few years ago, so it was not surprising that he had entered the legendary realm. Therefore, it was not strange that Master Yu was in the same realm. However, it was only when Wang Sheng began to temper his body for the second time that old Taoist Ling Su realized that Master Yu's simple action of waving a small stick in front of the band was not as simple as it seemed. Every time he waved, apart from the harmony of the musical instruments, old Taoist Ling Su also realized that there was a faint and unique rhythm. This rhythm was compatible with the spiritual energy in the entire Grand Theater, which actually caused the entire Grand Theater to vibrate harmoniously. Master Yu's every move seemed to have become one with the entire Grand Theater. Master Yu was the Grand Theater, and the Grand Theater was Master Yu. Every move of his would cause all the formations in the Grand Theater to resonate at the same time, perfectly integrating all the spiritual energy into one. Through the medium of sound, everything could be integrated organically. For a cultivator, this was a rare opportunity for cultivation. Coupled with the wonderful music of several different moods, one would only realize how profound and mysterious it was after truly understanding the beauty of it. It was just that these songs were not to the old Taoist taste, so old Taoist Ling Su did not appreciate them carefully. However, for the later songs, old Taoist Ling Su did not miss a single note. He listened carefully and felt the wonderful feeling brought to him by the harmonious resonance of the entire Grand Theater. He really did not know how wonderful it would be if it was the song that Wang Sheng had played the last time he practiced Taiji Fist, or the song that Wang Sheng had specially composed for himself. All of a sudden, old Taoist Ling Su was extremely looking forward to it. The three great priests were not as powerful as old Taoist Ling Su. They were only surprised when they sensed Wang Sheng's body tempering with spiritual energy, so they took the initiative to explore its secrets. However, the old Taoist was still in the mood to listen to the music, and this was already the second time. Therefore, he was able to listen patiently. The three old eunuchs were not in the mood to listen to the music at all, so how could they find out what was behind it? However, they were true experts at the peak of the legendary realm. So the three great priests still discovered some things. For example, the overall layout of the Grand Theater seemed to contain a structure that could harmonize and resonate with spiritual energy. This should be due to the array formation inside. In order to achieve the best audiovisual effect, Master Yu personally experienced every array formation in the Grand Theater. He strived to be able to enjoy the clearest audiovisual enjoyment, no matter where he sat or day. The array formation Grandmaster's overall layout allowed the auditorium and stage of the Grand Theater to become an organic whole. Master Yu had never considered cultivation, but the array formation that was arranged under his guidance was naturally equipped with the special effect of triggering spiritual energy resonance. Of course, there were also some unique rhythmic resonance of spiritual qi. Only those who could truly calm their hearts and enjoy the music and immerse themselves in it, like Wang Sheng and old Taoist Ling Su, could actively harmonize their spiritual qi with the music of the theater. Only those who understood music, knew how to appreciate it, and also understood the way of cultivation by analogy would have such an opportunity. Obviously, the three great priests who had mixed thoughts did not have the chance to appreciate the mystery of this at this time. However, this did not prevent the three great priests from discovering that listening to music in the Grand Theater was really beneficial to cultivation. This was because they had just noticed that even ancestor Ling Su seemed to have entered a mysterious state similar to Wang Sheng's. He was shaking his head and seemed very engrossed, but the spiritual energy in the box seemed to have solidified. Needless to say, this was a phenomenon that could only happen when old Taoist Ling Su had an epiphany. Old eunuch Shun's gaze swept across Steward Li and Steward Zhou, as if he was showing off. He had noticed something wrong with Wang Sheng when he entered and came out. It had only been 3 days, and Wang Sheng had done it again. Right in front of the three of them, he had advanced from the first stage to the second stage. At this rate, it would not take long for Wang Sheng to recover from the loss in the core area of the Land of 1,000 Despair. Just as the three great priests were deep in thought, the last piece of music was played. Following the emperor's applause, the entire Grand Theater was filled with thunderous applause. Chapter 840. Tianzi and the Queen were really attracted by this novel concert, the novel music, and a novel royal Grand Theater. From the first song, Butterfly Lovers, the Empress first entered a state of melancholy and melancholy. Following the emotions of each song, she went up and down, immersed in it. Compared to the Queen, Tianzi was slightly better. He only felt that those melodious tunes were beautiful. Having this appreciation didn't mean that he liked them. But from Horse Race to General's Order, these two tunes were impassioned, which directly aroused Tianzi's emotions. He almost stood up on the spot and lost his composure. Horse Race was still fine, but General's Order was simply a wave of climax, stimulating Tianzi to no end. What was Tianzi's biggest thought all these years? Wasn't it to strengthen the power of the royal family? It was exactly the same as the mood of the General's Order. If Tianzi didn't like it, what else would he like? Perhaps only the complete "the earth is beneath my feet" was left. It had to be said that Master Yu was really a top master in the music industry. After his guidance and training, basically the worst musician was close to the level of a grandmaster. Compared to the original group of royal musicians, it was unknown how many times higher they were. Almost every audience present had the ability to appreciate, and under Master Yu's meticulously trained first performance, everyone listened as if they were intoxicated. Several old famous tunes emitted a new light, and Wang Sheng's new tunes were even more refreshing. The instruments were top-notch. The average level of the musicians was almost the highest in this world. The conductor was the strongest grandmaster in the music industry, and the tunes were famous from 2 different worlds. If it still couldn't attract a group of cultured people, this concert could basically be declared a failure. Tianzi obviously had the ability to appreciate music. He was also very willing to follow the rules that the MC said, and took the lead to stand up and applaud. Needless to say, this rule must be made by Wang Sheng. Tianzi felt that it was interesting and had the intention to rope in Wang Sheng. It was done very well. Even Tianzi stood up and applauded. How could the audience hold it in? One by one, they stood up and clapped until their hands were numb. The warm applause lasted for a whole 10 minutes, and Master Yu had to bring the whole band out for 2 curtain calls before it was over. At this point, the Royal Theater's first official performance could already be said to be a great success. Not only was it a success, but it was a brilliant success. Didn't you see that all the officials in the royal family were shocked by the beautiful music and stood up to applaud for 10 minutes? If this wasn't a success, what else could be called a success? Uncle Sue, why don't you give the band name? Under Wang Sheng's hint, Mayor acted like a spoiled child towards Tianzi. Ever since Wang Sheng had brought the Empress back to the Marquis Fu in the middle of the night, Mayor basically knew the identity of the Empress. After knowing the Empress's identity, she naturally knew the Emperor's identity. However, she had always called the Emperor Uncle Su and had never greeted him with the etiquette of the Emperor. It was the same at this moment. The Uncle Su that he talked about was affectionate and had a hint of coquettishness. Tianzi didn't even have the chance to refuse. Since the theater is called the Royal Theater, then the band should also be called the Royal Big Band. Of course, the Emperor wouldn't disobey Mei Er's request at this time. Moreover, giving a name was also a way to show the prestige of the Emperor. How could the Emperor not grasp the opportunity that was presented to him? Wang Sheng directly frowned. Royal Big Band. Was there a name more idiotic than this? Couldn't he think of a better sounding, high-end, and classy name? Seeing that Wang Sheng frowned, the Emperor directly smiled and asked Wang Sheng, "Why? Does Duke Changsheng think it's not appropriate? Calling it a band seems a little small." Wang Sheng wasn't afraid to find fault with the Emperor. He had already scolded the Emperor face to face, so a suggestion was nothing. There's no need to talk about big or small. Just call it the Royal Symphony Orchestra. How about it? If it was another official, they definitely wouldn't dare to shout, kowtow to apologize, and carefully make a suggestion. How could there be someone like Wang Sheng who directly said that the scale was not good? Only Wang Sheng. When Wang Sheng spoke, even the three great consecrators didn't have the slightest dissatisfaction. They lowered their eyebrows and didn't seem to have any objection. Royal Symphony Orchestra? The Emperor chewed on this word and nodded his head. Sure enough, it was much better than the Royal Big Band, and the style was a lot more imposing. The Emperor raised his thumb and praised. Good, good, good. Use this name. Old Li, give the order. Name the band Royal Symphony Orchestra. That master you. Confer the title of Royal Symphony Orchestra leader and give him the title of Baron. Manager Li didn't say anything and brought the Emperor's oral order to the stage. In front of all the band members, in front of 1,000 audience, he read the Emperor's oral order. As soon as they heard the name bestowed by the Emperor, the musicians of the band couldn't believe their ears. More than 90% of the musicians were in tears, and the remaining 10% were stunned on the spot, as if they were stupid. The only one who could still maintain his rationality was Master Yu. Even though he was conferred the title of guild leader and was given the title of Baron, he could still maintain his composure. The Emperor was in the most central box. Looking down from above, he could see the reaction of the musicians directly, which made him feel great joy. Was there anything else that made the Emperor feel more accomplished than a simple name bestowed by himself to make those people crazy with joy? Wasn't this the sign of the expansion of influence that Wang Sheng mentioned? If the people of the vassal states also had this kind of reaction in the future, wouldn't it mean that the Emperor's prestige had spread throughout the world? The Royal Big Theater's first performance ended perfectly. Before daybreak, the sensational news had already spread throughout the capital. Then, through countless messenger birds and word of mouth, it spread to the whole world. Wang Sheng, Mei, Sister Rosa, and the old Taoist returned to the Duke's mansion together. Sister Rosa was in a daze along the way. Only in the end did she realize that the middle-aged uncle who was sitting in the same box with her was actually the current emperor. And her own man, Wang Sheng, actually had that kind of attitude when talking to the emperor. Even Mei was so casual. Sister Rosa was handed over to Mei, while Wang Sheng was once again with the old Taoist Ling Su. In any case, Wang Sheng had to be checked by the old Taoist Ling Su for his advancement to the second stage. When will the song you composed for me be out? To Wang Sheng's surprise, the old Taoist Ling Su did not immediately ask about Wang Sheng's cultivation. Instead, he took the initiative to ask about the song. This really surprised Wang Sheng. Chapter 841. How can it be that fast? Wang Sheng replied to old Taoist Ling Su with a smile. Even if I compose a song, the band still needs to practice, right? Even if I find someone to sing, it will take time, right? Old Taoist, are you going to let those musicians who have worked hard all night practice for you? Speaking of this, old Taoist Ling Su was not a domineering person, so he immediately fell silent. He knew that what Wang Sheng said made sense. The old Taoist was impatient. Ever since he met old Taoist Ling Su, Wang Sheng had only seen the old Taoist so impatient twice. The first time was when Wang Sheng planned to bring people into the underground palace of the land of Thousand Despair. The old Taoist could not wait to take him in as a disciple on behalf of his master and became a secular elder of Laojun Temple. The second time was now. The old Taoist actually took the initiative to ask Wang Sheng to compose a song for him. Why was he so impatient? Wang Sheng immediately understood that the old Taoist must have made a discovery at the concert, and it was very important. That was why he was so impatient. What's the matter, old Taoist? Did you discover something while listening to the music? Wang Sheng asked old Taoist Ling Su with a smile. You've advanced twice in a row at the Grand Theater. If I can't discover something, wouldn't it be too embarrassing? The old Taoist also laughed. Let's get some wine and have a good chat. Of course, Wang Sheng had no objections. He gave the order, and someone naturally prepared the wine and dishes for the two of them. While waiting for the dishes to be served, old Taoist Ling Su gave Wang Sheng a checkup. Wang Sheng's advancement was considered a matter of course. The process of tempering his body with spiritual energy was not a problem, so it was not a big deal. He just had to continue cultivating. When the dishes were served, old Taoist Ling Su and Wang Sheng clinked glasses with each other before asking, how did you discover the spirit qi oscillation effect when the Grand Theater and Old Man Yu's music were combined? The effect of spiritual energy oscillation? Wang Sheng was stunned. I discovered that music and the 9 secret words incantation are compatible. The old Taoist's eyes widened, and so did Wang Sheng. Both of them thought that the other had found the same thing as them, but they didn't expect it to be different. After staring at each other for a while, their eyes lit up with excitement. This was a great discovery, and it would be very beneficial to their cultivation. Both Wang Sheng and old Taoist Ling Su were very interested in each other's discoveries. To Wang Sheng, old Taoist Ling Su was a super expert in the 12th stage. How could his discovery be worthless? To old Taoist Ling Su, Wang Sheng's various senses were so sharp that even he was ashamed of his inferiority. How could Wang Sheng's discovery be simple? You first. You first. He had created the Tai Chi sword himself, so he was not inferior to Wang Sheng. However, based on Wang Sheng's demonic level, the Tai Chi Taoist scripture might be integrated with Wang Sheng faster than old Taoist Ling Su. If that happened, the old Taoist would probably lose face again. Fortunately, the old Taoist also discovered something at the concert venue that Wang Sheng had not discovered, so he barely managed to salvage the situation. Master Yu and the Grand Theater actually have such an effect of integration. Wang Sheng was also shocked by old Taoist Ling Su's discovery, but Wang Sheng soon understood the reason. It was all because of Master Yu's perfectionist personality. His original purpose was to arrange the best sound effects in the Grand Theater, but because of Master Yu's request, it became a spiritual qi oscillation space that could be integrated with Master Yu's command. At the same time, it was beneficial to cultivation experts. Unfortunately, the only one who could produce such an effect was Master Yu and his Royal Symphony Orchestra, and Master Yu was the key. Only Master Yu, who had reached the peak of the legendary realm and had a deep understanding of all kinds of music, could do this. If it were another conductor, he would not be able to produce such an effect in the Grand Theater in 10 years. This spiritual qi oscillation space was very beneficial. Even old Taoist Ling Su was fascinated by the concert and benefited his cultivation a lot. One could only imagine how people of other realms felt. Was there an expert with a higher realm than old Taoist Ling Su? Unfortunately, without old Taoist Ling Su's cultivation and keen senses like Wang Sheng's, even if others had the opportunity to sit in the Grand Theater and listen to the Royal Symphony Orchestra conducted by Master Yu, they would at most feel that the music was beautiful and comfortable. The effects of their cultivation would not be satisfactory. Is there a way to improve it? The old Taoist was concerned about this issue. Chapter 842. Improve? Wang Sheng pondered for a while and nodded. It could be improved. The old Taoist's interest was piqued. If it could be improved, he could build a small stage to test it out. If every musician who plays an instrument is at the same level as Master Yu. There was no need for Wang Sheng to finish his sentence. The logic behind it was clear. Honestly speaking, the average level of the musicians in the band was not even at the level of a guru, but the effect was already so remarkable. If every performer was at the level of a guru, to what extent would the overall standard of the band be improved? It would not be a quantitative change, but a direct qualitative change. Both Wang Sheng and the old Taoist Ling Su understood that there was only one reason why the spirit qi oscillation could occur in the Grand Theater, and that was the presence of Master Yu. If there were dozens of Master Yu, then it would not only be the old Taoist Ling Su who would be able to sense it. Anyone who entered the Grand Theater to listen to the music, as long as they had some foundation in cultivation, would be able to sense it. A perfect formation coupled with the cooperation of so many gurus would produce an effect that even the old Taoist Ling Su would be tempted, not to mention others. Make the song for me, the old Taoist, as soon as possible. The old Taoist Ling Su had given a death order. He was now looking forward to the song that was specially written for him. Of course, the old Taoist did not forget to remind Wang Sheng to cultivate. Old Taoist, don't play with the mantra of 9 words yet. Wang Sheng did not forget to remind the old Taoist Ling Su. It was not a big deal if he lost control of his spirit qi during cultivation, especially now that his cultivation had dropped to the second stage. Even if something happened, it would not be a big deal. However, if the old Taoist, who was in the 12th stage, lost control of his spirit qi, the entire Duke's mansion would probably be destroyed. The old Taoist waved his hand and let Wang Sheng leave. He wanted to stay and drink for a while. At the same time, help Wang Sheng with his cultivation. By now, it was almost time for Wang Sheng to start cultivating again. When it was midnight, Wang Sheng reviewed the dozens of combinations of the 3-word formulas that he was familiar with, and then he started to use the dozens of combinations that he was not familiar with. After advancing to the second stage realm, the amount of spiritual qi he could control was almost 10 times more than before, and he was able to use it more easily. However, the unfamiliar combination was still unfamiliar, and it was inevitable that the situation of spiritual energy going out of control once again occurred. The only thing worth rejoicing about was that the spiritual qi in his body had been circulating according to the scripture of Tao, maintaining tranquil heart sutra, and was not affected at all. The only thing that was affected was the surrounding spiritual energy brought about by the simultaneous use of the 3-word formulas. However, Wang Sheng had still underestimated the scale of the 3-word formula's spiritual qi going out of control. When Wang Sheng was in the first stage of the unorthodox realm, the amount of spiritual qi he could use was limited. Therefore, the loss of control of spiritual qi was almost limited to the small courtyard of the cultivation room. However, now that he had advanced to the second stage realm, the amount of spiritual qi he could use was more abundant, and it also caused the power of the 3-word formulas to increase by several times, which directly alarmed half of the Duke's mansion. In such a short period of time, Mayer had already comforted Sister Rosa, allowing Sister Rosa to recover from the shock of knowing the identity of the Emperor. However, before she could breathe a sigh of relief, the movement from Wang Sheng's side shocked Mayer. The 2 women hurriedly ran to the cultivation room and saw old Taoist Ling Su drinking quietly in the courtyard. They immediately breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that the matter was not serious. No matter how serious the matter was, as long as old Taoist Ling Su was here, he would definitely be able to solve it. Taoist Master, is the Duke unable to control his spiritual qi again? Mei-er was temporarily relieved, but it did not mean that she could sleep peacefully. She still asked cautiously. Yes, old Taoist Ling Su nodded. It was a fact that Wang Sheng could not control his spiritual qi with the three-word formulas, but he could not tell Mei and Rosa more about it, so he could only nod. With old Taoist words, Mei did not ask any more questions. She pulled Sister Rosa, and the two of them left Wang Sheng's cultivation room together. When they left, Mei had already decided that regardless of whether old Taoist agreed or not, she must let Sister Rosa and the sisters in the Duke's mansion help Wang Sheng achieve yin and yang balance. Old Taoist Ling Su did not know that Mei had already made such a decision. He was calmly pondering over the spiritual qi oscillation and the use of the multiple word formulas at the same time. In the end, it seemed that the only thing he could do now was to integrate the Tai Chi Taoist scripture together. Early the next morning, Wang Sheng and old Taoist Ling Su went to visit Master Yu and the others. Master Yu and his team must have been excited and exhausted last night, so they did not disturb them directly. It was more appropriate to come at this time. "Congratulations, Master!" Wang Sheng cupped his hands at Master Yu and the musicians from afar and congratulated them. Everyone was still immersed in excitement. Who would have thought that yesterday's performance would be a success? The audience would stand and applaud for such a long time, and the emperor would confer a title of baron on them. In the past, everyone was just a musician who was ordered around by those big shots. If they performed well, they would at most be rewarded by those people, and they would be satisfied with a little more. Who would have thought that those big shots would stand up and applaud and cheer? All of this was thanks to the person who cupped his hands at them. Every member of the orchestra stood up respectfully and bowed to Wang Sheng respectfully. If our identities and statuses change from now on, even if this old man passes away immediately, it would not be a waste of my life. Master Yu is extremely emotional. In his more than 90 years of life, even if others respected him, they would at most respect his zither-making skills, and this was because he was in Linglong Pavilion. As for getting the emperor to stand and applaud after listening to his performance, he had never thought of it before. "No hurry, no hurry." Wang Sheng smiled at Master Yu and said, "Actually, the Royal Symphony Orchestra still has room for improvement, but Master Yu is not satisfied yet." Hearing what Wang Sheng said, Master Yu's eyes lit up. There was room for improvement? This was what Master Yu couldn't stand. He immediately invited Wang Sheng and the rest into his room and asked them for advice. Actually, it's a matter of mutual benefit. In the room, Wang Sheng didn't hide anything and told Master Yu the truth. "When we were in the Grand Theater, I realized that the orchestra you directed could produce the effect of spirit energy oscillation in the Grand Theater. It's very beneficial for cultivation. However, we are still lacking in musicians. Can you think of a way? Can we gather a group of super musicians who are qualified to be the chief of the orchestra to perform?" "What is the chief of the orchestra?" Master Yu was confused by Wang Sheng's sudden words and quickly asked. "Oh, it's the best in each instrument. Everyone agrees that the best in a certain instrument is the chief of that instrument. For example, the chief of the violin, the chief of the eru, and so on." Wang Sheng also forgot that Master Yu didn't understand this and quickly explained, "With the chief system, the musicians will work harder." Chapter 843. Before Wang Sheng suggested Master Yu to form an orchestra, there wasn't even a conductor, let alone a chief musician. The Royal Symphony Orchestra's rise to fame was inseparable from Wang Sheng's earlier suggestions. Now, Wang Sheng had come up with the idea of a chief orchestra. This immediately allowed Master Yu to see a new way to motivate his band members. Everything needed motivation, and cultivation was the same. The motivation of cultivation was to advance, to temper the body with spiritual energy, to obtain stronger combat power, a longer lifespan, a better body, and a better enjoyment of life. So it was the same for musicians. Previously, according to Wang Sheng's suggestion, other than a few instruments such as drums and a piano, the orchestra would have more than one eru, violin, guqin, and so on. There would be at least 3, and at most more than 10. However, when there were too many people, there was a lack of an effective way to motivate. Everyone was in the same orchestra. Some were better than others, but when they went on stage together, who could tell them apart? Only professional experts like Master Yu and Wang Sheng would be able to fool the audience. In this way, some musicians would lose the desire to work hard and wait to be fed from the same pot. This was actually not a good thing. Master Yu had never been in management before, so he didn't realize the disadvantages, but he could see the advantages at a glance. The chief musician can also be responsible for some solo performances. That way, he will be able to stand out from the crowd and become even more famous. Wang Sheng once again raised the stakes for the chief musician position. Master Yu immediately knew that the members of the band would fight tooth and nail for the position of the lead singer. Although Master Yu was indifferent to fame and fortune, some people in the orchestra had been serving the royal family since the beginning. They were more realistic and business-minded. Of course, they knew the advantages better than Master Yu. There must be a chief musician, and some people must be eliminated for a period of time. Wang Sheng knew that Master Yu was not good at management, so he gave another suggestion. That way, there will be rewards and punishments. That's normal. I'm really not good at that. Master Yu knew his own situation. He was not at all confused by the fact that he had become a baron overnight. He knew where his strengths and weaknesses were. Don't worry. Just let Mayer find a manager for you. Wang Sheng smiled and said, Now, you don't have to worry about anything else. Just focus on studying better and more beautiful music. Master Yu had no objections. Overnight, the name of the Royal Symphony Orchestra resounded throughout the world. But Master Yu knew very well who it was all because of. Wang Sheng had found someone to help him manage it, so Master Yu could free himself and cultivate more outstanding musicians. The first concert was free as it was a gift to Tianzi, but from the second concert onwards, there would be fees. A portion of the gold coins collected would be used as operating expenses for the Royal Theatre, while the other portion would be used as remuneration for the performers. With such high remuneration, the Royal Symphony Orchestra could be sustained and would no longer need Wang Sheng's continuous funding. One had to know that the main reason why Master Yu and the others could practice without distractions was that Wang Sheng had completely guaranteed their livelihood. They did not have to worry about food or clothing, nor did they have to worry about their future. Naturally, they could focus on practicing. If they had to worry about food and clothing all day, how could they make good music? Master, is it possible to find a better musician like you? Wang Sheng asked again. I want to see how exciting it would be if all of them were at the level of great master. I want it too. Master Yu's eyes were filled with longing, but he immediately returned to normal. Don't worry. Give me a few months to send letters to my old friends all over the world. See if they are willing to come out. If it had been in the past, Master Yu himself would not have had the confidence to invite those people. At most, he could only invite their disciples. Among the musicians this time, there were many descendants of Master Yu's friends. But now, after experiencing the premiere at the Royal Theatre and receiving the Royal Symphony Orchestra from the Emperor, Master Yu's confidence had increased greatly. His friends did not seek fame and fortune, but they were very willing to do anything to help all musicians. It won't take a few months. Master, just leave it to me. I promise to send it as soon as possible, Wang Sheng promised Master Yu. Even if the Duke's mansion did not have the ability, the Temple of Lao Jun and the Imperial Treasury would be happy to help. Master Yu was a man of action. Without another word, he began to write letters on the spot. After marking them one by one, he handed them to Wang Sheng for Wang Sheng to help send them out. During this time, Wang Sheng also needed to build a small theater in the Duke's mansion. He asked Master Yu to set up the tactical matrix according to the requirements of the Royal Theatre and test the effect of spiritual qi oscillation in a small area. They could also use it for rehearsals. In this regard, Master Yu agreed without a second thought. In the end, Wang Sheng took out 2 music scores and handed them to Master Yu. He asked Master Yu to practice with the orchestra first. These 2 songs, one was an old one, and the other was the song that Wang Sheng promised the old Taoist Ling Su. The old Taoist could not wait. However, no matter how anxious he was, he had to wait until the orchestra was proficient in practicing before he could listen to it. With a new song, Master Yu immediately put aside everything else. He looked at the music score and started waving his arms. It didn't take long for him to furrow his brows. It's just the music score and the lyrics. When they're done, the effect might be better. Wang Sheng hurriedly explained, "However, these two songs are not for others to perform. They're for my senior brother." Of course, Master Yu knew about Ancestor Ling's Su from the Laojun Temple. Once he heard that it was prepared for Ancestor Ling's Su, there was no need to ask. It must be related to Taoism and cultivation. Master Yu immediately stopped looking into whether the style of the two songs was elegant or not, whether the rhythm was outstanding, and only assigned it as a task. It was such a simple song. Master Yu patted his chest on the spot and promised to come back in 3 days. If they were not satisfied, they could find him. Only then did Wang Sheng and the old Taoist Ling Su leave in satisfaction. Next, Wang Sheng went straight to Master Lu and invited him to build a small theater in the Duke's mansion. It only needed 2 rows of a dozen spectators. However, the tactical matrix must be carefully coordinated with Master Yu. If Master Lu could even build the royal theater, what could this small theater for rehearsals amount to? Master Lu generously guaranteed that Wang Sheng would be able to see the effect he wanted within a month. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.